Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, and it looks like we might be on Instagram here. I want to see if our Instagram listeners will tell us if they're hearing us. We are now on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, Twitter at Thomas Price 2017, and on sportinarium.com/player. We're speaking all things related to the world of the NFL with two of my guys at the moment. That is the Baltimore kid. He is now the host of the Be More Talkative podcast. It's now Be More Talkative, and the host of two shows here on Sportswire, from the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals, Mr. Chris Pizzea. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good, man.
All right, very good here, and I see a few people have joined us on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, let me know if you can hear us. But guys, how you doing? And I know we're going to talk about all things related here in the world of the NFL, and especially Week 2. But you guys might be feeling different things for different reasons, and I'm going to go with the Baltimore kid first because I want to tease the New York Jets talk. But the Baltimore kid, you got to be a very, very happy man, as the Baltimore Ravens got off to a nice start, a 25-9 win over the Houston Texans.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm happy. It just seems like some of the players and some of the fans, man, I tell you what, you would think we lost or got blown out. Like, I understand, it's week 1. Okay. It's week 1. That's what everybody needs to understand. Guys are shaking off the rust. Guys are just coming back. Some guys are out. Of course, we had the crushing blow of already losing JK for the season. Ronnie Stanley is hurt again. That's nothing new. And I think everybody just needs to calm down, relax. We got the W. That's what's most important. We roll into Cincinnati this Sunday. That's our main focus.
Oh, we're going to be talking a lot about that here, and I want to especially say hello to our friends on Instagram at ROEW Backyard Wrestling, where we actually agree we're go Lions, because obviously I'm kind of a Lions booster here on Sportswire. We'll have ROEW coverage Sunday night here. But Chris Pizzea, the New York Jets obviously get a huge victory, but it's a victory with a huge cost, maybe even not only playoff ramifications, but Super Bowl ramifications, possibly. And Aaron Rodgers out for the season, and so Jets get a win. But what does this New York Jets team do from here?
Yeah, it was definitely a gut punch, man. That was being a Jet fan for as long as I have. I've unfortunately experienced this before in '99 with Vinny Testaverde on opening day. Same thing, Achilles blown out, done for the year, and we know what happened after that. But the same type of, feeling going into the season that, hey, we got a shot, and then this happens. But that game showed you that this team's defense is capable of carrying this team. Plus, they got a really good running game, obviously, with Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall returning. So, you know what? I still think they could be a playoff team with Zach Wilson. It just depends on.
But being a playoff team and a Super Bowl team are two different things. I know.
I was just going to get to that. I'm like,
okay,
if we want to get to the playoffs, that's a whole other ball game. Who knows?
You did say, to be fair, on Twitter that you were going to deal with some Jet naysayers, so I guess.
Yeah, and that's fine. I totally understand it. If I get it from both sides, but okay. I have to feel positive, and I think Zach Wilson will develop this year under Hackett. I think Hackett's a much better OC. A veteran OC that knows what he's doing. He's been around a while. Listen, he brought the Jaguars with Blake Bortles to the AFC Championship game. So if that doesn't give you any kind of, like, this guy is a pretty good offensive coordinator, then I don't know what doesn't. But I feel confident that he could do it. Listen, I know Wilson's not going to be anything where we thought he'd be, right? The number 2 overall pick, all that stuff.
Right.
Probably not. But can he be... like what Mark Sanchez was with the Jets in 09 and 010? I think so.
I mean, that's what my friend Daniel Slavin was saying. He was messaging me, and he's a big Jets fan. He listens to us. Long time friend of mine. I mean, we're talking long time back in the old days in Brooklyn. And he was basically saying, well, we just need somebody to kind of compliment Wilson. He played Monday well enough to win. But then who else is out there? You got to get somebody else, I would imagine. I mean, so what's the market like?
You know what? I think it's, a lot of people mention Kirk Cousins and Matthew Stafford. these teams aren't going to give up after the first week. You know what I mean?
Well, the Rams won last week. They're
right.
Definitely
That's
not
what I mean.
Anybody.
The Vikings have, the 2 games they've basically shot themselves in the foot. If they don't, fumble and turn the ball over, they might be 2-0. So,
and for our picks league, I think if you had the Eagles, like some of us, you got to be really disappointed because it was
half a point.
Yeah.
Chris, I hear Kaepernick's looking for a job.
Yeah, no, that ain't happening.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't understand that. The guys who played in 7
Daniel
years.
Slavin, on the conversely, the other way goes and gives me a Tim Tebow photo. I mean, you get it from
worse.
both sides.
These guys haven't played, Kaepernick hasn't played in 7 years. Why would any team want to sign him at this point? Aside from everything else, forget about that. But just on field stuff, he hasn't played in 7 years.
Yeah,
no one's going to sign him. Nobody.
Now, realistically though, what do you think about Flacco? He said he's still ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Daniel was talking about that also. You really want to go back to Flacco? I mean, we got rid of him.
I mean, you guys were going to take a chance on Rodgers. I'd at least for a veteran, for a veteran guy, I wouldn't mind having Flacco.
I understand
that's
that.
me.
I listen, and they're very, they know him well for the last couple of seasons, so it wouldn't shock me if they sign him. I don't want him because. No, and listen. No
what about the rumor out there that John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities group had posted, and a few other people messaged me today about this, about Ben Roethlisberger? Do we take that serious, or what?
No,
you guys
I don't.
know?
I'm not taking that serious. No. He looked done. He looked done his last couple of seasons. I mean, he you've obviously seen him a couple of times a year easily, and he looked done his last year. He couldn't throw as hard, and no, I don't think he's the guy. I mean, there's a couple of guys out there.
Carson Wentz, I guess, is out there.
Yeah,
you want to throw him?
I don't know. He's looked pretty bad too the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I was listening to one of our prospective podcasts that's supposed to come on our link down there, which obviously Chris is and also Mr. TBK are a part of on sportnarium.com/player. And they were talking about Gardner Minshew was a name they threw out there, and Carson Wentz. As Colts fans, they're basically fed up with him. They want nothing to do with him.
And listen, no matter who they get, because they are going to get a third quarterback, obviously, because they're not going to go with just Tim Boyle as their backup. No matter who it's going to be, it's not going to be a guy that's going to take over, right? They're going to run Zach Wilson out there for the next month and a half, because it's going to take a while for this quarterback to come in and learn the offense and, and get some kind of any kind of rhythm with his teammates and stuff like that. So it's going to be Zach Wilson for a while, for at least a month or maybe 2 months. And they're going to ride with him and see how it goes. And if he's fine, then it's going to be like, hey, whatever. Then we're good. But if it gets rough and ugly in the next month, yeah, maybe they'll turn to someone else. But I think it's going to be Zach Wilson for the next, definitely for the foreseeable future, until, even like I said, whoever they bring in, it could be a big name or a small name. Nick Foles is a
I've got some comments, and I know
he's a great backup to have too. He's a good teammate. He knows his role. And like I said, whoever's going to come in is going to take a good month or so to learn the offense, because it's not an easy offense to just pick up.
It's going to be very difficult here. Let me say hello to some people through Instagram and YouTube. And Anthony Finkel says and then he says Flacco was a bum last season. Yeah, Flacco, I think at this point it's time to retire, which he already pretty much has. Guys, I want to say hello to Frankie. He's on Instagram as well at ron.frm215. Jets should call. I was waiting for somebody to say this, but because we heard all these other names like Roethlisberger, Chad Henne was thrown out there, but Eli Manning, anybody?
He's having too much fun with Peyton right now.
Yeah, no, he's not gonna happen. He's probably making more money sitting at home doing his show. So
much more safe too.
Yeah, he's not giving that up.
I even heard somebody say Andrew Luck, but that's to me like another one that's not going to happen. Andrew Luck is not coming.
No.
Nah.
And what about a Jameis Winston? I'll throw out there before I get to our picks league. What about a Jameis Winston be a trade now?
It's not a bad idea, I guess.
I heard somebody say that out there. And I thought, you know what? Jameis Winston could throw a little bit. I know he throws a lot of INTs, but he's competent. He's been a quarterback before. He's had some experience.
Is he the guy that they're going to – I think they're going to get a guy who's, doesn't have to be a big-time thrower, just a guy that doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, right? Just a guy that can – control the ball, because they're going to get to a run-oriented offense now. It's not going to be, any kind of big play offense throwing the ball. I think it's going to be more runner, just basically what we've seen in the game on Monday night, right? They were running a lot of 3 tight ends out there. So I think that's what we're going to see a lot of.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. And obviously, again, if you want to check us out, we are on YouTube. We are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 backspace streams. I know we'll be getting a couple of guys in here shortly. The brute force Brad Weiss will be here. He's probably on the Long Island Railroad still. I see him on Instagram. I know Justin Gianelli will pop in here, and I'm sure John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities group, if he hasn't been in here, will be in here as well. But I figured since we're getting ready for our picks, and I wanted to put our standings in here. In first place, it looks like so far, I believe it's Rob Maraska, RM Sports. I believe that's him, 10-7. I mean, another guy that probably did an eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but he's in first place. Gotta give him that. Picking for the belt, Anthony Finkel, the napkin Anthony Finkel, another guy that's an eeny, meeny, miny, mo type, 9-8. The brute force Brad Weiss, 8-9. Billy McInerney, 8-9. The Baltimore Kid, 8-9. Then it looks like a bunch of us are at 7-10, including yours truly. I think, Chris, you're 7-10, right? Are you 7-10 also, I think, right?
I thought I was 9.
Oh, I got picking for the belt. I have picking for the belt, 9-8. Brutes, forceful.
Yeah, that's me, I think, isn't it?
Okay. Anthony Finkel's got to be in here, though, right? Who's book it? Who's book it?
That's
Patrick. Patrick Trotty, 7-10. The Ball Crushers, 6-11. And then I don't even know why Joey Bostrom's still in this thing. He's 0-17. But he just has.
Did he not put his picks in? He couldn't have picked. There's no way he.
There's no way he could have went nowhere. Yeah, he didn't know. He didn't know to pick. He just didn't know.
I was gonna say that's impossible to go with no wins.
No, but a bunch of us. Basically, the main thing is a bunch of us are within like 3 games of each other. But we'll have to see.
TBK said it right. It's only week 1.
That's it.
For everything. Fantasy.
I'm not losing sleep. I know people are going to say, oh, your Steelers got blown out. The Giants got blown out. The Vikings. But it's still week one.
I think we said week 1, crazy stuff happens.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. It's just you flip a coin. Nobody knows. I mean, and Johnny Manziel is still available. Well, he's on Netflix now, right? Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be a choice.
Okay, and John Gonzalez wants to inform me that he'll be here around 10:30. So, and also Frankie wants to say we're leaving Atlanta 2-0, basically. So he wants to point out that that's what he wants to point out. All right, so I guess then before we get into the picks here in a few minutes, is there any other things, any other stories around the league you guys think are important to note as people kind of start warming up, as we have Instagram people in here and some people out there on YouTube? And if you're on Instagram, let me know if you can hear us, by the way, because it's the first time I'm doing this on Instagram. And I got the idea because we did a show with a wrestler, Bentley, and Bentley decided he wanted to put it live on his Instagram. So that's what I kind of got the idea from. So I didn't know we could really.
I think you got to try Twitch next too, right? Twitch does.
Yeah, I have thought about Twitch. What I've really been focusing on right now is making some improvements kind of to the background on Sportswire. We're also trying to work on a sponsor. We have a company called Dooley.com that we're trying to get involved to support us. So I'm hoping that some of these improvements, which would be a major sponsor, that'll help out. So, if you are out there on Instagram, let us know. But for you guys, give me some of the other week 1 news and notes that you think is important before we go into the picks.
How about the Giants getting blown out 40-0?
Oh, man.
I mean, it's one thing that, I didn't,
is that the worst week 1 for like a team on prime time that you've ever seen before?
At home, no less.
At home. Yeah, I remember saying Sunday night under the lights they weren't going to get it done, but sheesh.
I don't think you had 40 nothing.
Sheesh is right. That's a good word.
Yeah, no. In recent memory, I don't know if you guys can contribute, but I think it's one of the craziest week 1s that we've seen with the 2 season enders.
Yep.
The big blowout. How
about Dolphins Chargers? By the way, that was a shootout. Dolphins Chargers. Tua, I think, had maybe the most passing yards of any Dolphins QB non-Dan Marino. I mean, I think that was.
I think it was like 460. Did he throw almost 465 or something?
Almost 500 yards. I mean, Dolphins Chargers. That was a shootout. I mean, you had the Rams. They looked very impressive in Seattle. I mean, there was some.
That was a
some
shocker.
weird outcomes. Yeah,
I thought that was a shocker.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay going into Minnesota, as TBK mentioned before. I mean, you had that as an outcome. I mean, there was definitely some games. How about New England? New England had some chances to win. I mean, we all buried New England, and New England was right there. So, I mean, yeah, there was a number of, interesting topsy-turvy games. Maybe some games kind of went the way we thought. Arizona and Washington certainly did.
Green Bay
Tennessee
still owns Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, maybe
Right.
Green
The
Bay is one of those
Pullman
under the
forms.
radar surprises. Jordan Love plays well, and
Yeah.
maybe Green Bay is better than we thought for some of us. I mean, you could look at it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland beaten Cincy. I mean, I had Cleveland, but I thought it would be a lot closer game.
It was 24-0, really.
Yeah, I just thought
yeah.
Burrow. I just thought Joe Burrow was gonna be a little rusty because he hasn't played in like a month, so he really didn't play at all. So
basically,
that's what I would. But I just thought it'd be a lot closer game. I didn't think it would be a blowout. I wasn't.
Well, I think Justin was the one that kind of said, don't sleep on Cleveland. Cleveland's played really well against Cincinnati. It's a rivalry game.
Too.
Sure.
So we could see that. I mean, you must have been happy, the Baltimore kid, about that, I guess, in a way, about that outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was actually at a Ravens party and ended up, seeing the scores at the bottom. And I was like, what? But like I said, I don't think respectively you can count out any team in the AFC North.
I think we've said that the last few weeks on the show. If you look at the teams in that division, I mean, realistically, they're all going to be bunched up by a few games, and on any given week when those teams face off, you just never know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and to win in dominant fashion against a division rival right off the bat, that's making a statement.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, I definitely.
A few of them made their statements this first week, but again, it's only week 1, right? We said that, so
yeah, we said that. That's right.
very, very quickly, I do want to touch upon Minnesota before I go into the games here that are in the current day. And they start the year 0-2. Obviously, a lot of people were not impressed with them last season. They won 13 games, but their point differential was actually a minus. And if you were picking actually in the spreads, they actually had a losing record, and they're 0-2 now. I mean, you guys have any red flags or a little worried right now about the Vikings? I mean, considering last year they did win, but they really struggled in almost all of their games last year. You guys have a thought on that or two?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Minnesota is Minnesota. I don't want to, they got Kirk Cousins. He's going to put up big numbers, but they're also going to, he's also going to throw a lot of interceptions. He's a guy that doesn't win the big game, in prime time, stuff like that.
We spoke about that the last few years.
Right. It came, we've seen that on Thursday night, and it was just, and this is a team that could be 2-0, right now, but they kind of, like I said earlier, they shot themselves in the foot in both the first 2 games. They didn't play that bad against the Eagles, except for a couple of turnovers early on. So I don't know. I think, listen, Green Bay we've seen Green Bay. They're going to be tough. Detroit, we know how good they're going to be this year. So those two teams definitely for sure are 2 good teams. Chicago, I'm still not sold on Fields yet, but we'll see. But I mean, this might be a team that's not going to make the playoffs, and this might be a team that's going to trade their quarterback because he's a free agent after this year. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that we might listen if they lose another game, being 0-3 or 1-4, 1-3 or 0-3, 1-4. You're going to start hearing.
I think 0-3. I think 0-3. You'd worry a little bit because you were 13-4 last year. Because automatically, you look at it, and your margin of error last year was so thin in a lot of these games. I mean, so you talked about the fact that Green Bay maybe was better than we thought. Detroit, obviously, a lot of people are high on, including myself and the brute force Brad Weiss when he gets off the Long Island Railroad. I'm sure he'll be happy to go. But I mean, maybe you do worry a little bit if you're the Vikings there in that sense.
And you know what? Just looking at their schedule, their next couple of games they don't get any easier. Next week, they play the Chargers at home. Then they go to Carolina. Okay, that's easy, maybe. But then they come home to play Kansas City. You're talking about they might be 1-4.
Listen, that's why I asked it. And we're joined here by Mr. Justin Gianelli. Justin, we're I think trying Instagram. I don't know if people in the background can actually hear if we're live on Instagram or not. I've actually put that on for a little while longer. We'll see how it goes. But, we're going to pick the games here shortly in a minute. But any week one thoughts and reactions? Obviously, Rodgers, big news. We just spoke about the Vikings going 0-2, Giants. Spoke about a few other games. Rams pulled off an upset. Green Bay looked pretty well. Anything that comes to mind before I go into the games?
Yeah, really. In terms of week one, those were the two teams, the Rams, and the Packers, that jumped out to me the most. I thought the Rams were impressive, and I still, I don't think what we saw in week one is really what we're going to see out of Seattle. I just think the Rams came with a great game plan, and Matthew Stafford, played very well. And then they punched it in 3 times from the goal line with Cam Akers and Kyron Williams. The Rams to me were very impressive, and I know it kind of seems like they're in like a rebuilding phase, but you still got the veteran quarterback. They're going to be competitive, and we talked about how the NFC is, it's much more within reach to jump up into the playoffs as opposed to the AFC. So I'm impressed by what I saw with the Rams, and I'm very impressed with what I saw with Green Bay. I thought Jordan Love looked very good. I thought Chicago's defense was going to be better going into the season with some of the additions they made in the offseason. Clearly, they didn't, and Justin Fields looked lost out there. But Jordan Love, I mean, it clearly shows it pays to sit 3 years, right? They had Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe we overlooked him a little bit, right? We thought, well, he hasn't had much experience. We didn't like what we saw from him in the brief outings, but if he plays like this each and every week, I mean, Green Bay doesn't miss a step, and in a weak NFC could probably go back to the postseason.
And listen, with Minnesota starting 0-2, there's every opportunity that maybe they're not a playoff team this year, and maybe Green Bay sneaks into the wild card. You definitely have to think Detroit, after their impressive performance on Thursday night against the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to think they're going to be the favorites for the division. But don't count Green Bay out either. If Jordan Love is gonna play like this, if he plays 75% of that, the way he did against Chicago, Green Bay's in good shape. That's still a good roster.
I know
we'll see with Aaron Jones. I know he's got the hamstring issue. I'm not sure what his status will become Sunday, but they got a good roster. So if Jordan Love takes that next step, they're in pretty good shape.
I guess one way you look at it here is the Rams were a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Matthew Stafford's back. You still got Sean McVay. You still got some parts there. Maybe they weren't as bad as we thought. And the Packers, for the same reasons, you could look at it from the same way. So, I mean, we'll have to see. But we are on Sportswire Radio, and we are on Instagram. But I think I'm going to log off Instagram because I don't see anybody on Instagram now. So I think apparently if you're on Instagram, maybe you checked in and you didn't hear us or whatever else. Are you going to come over to YouTube, which we're on right now at Sportswire Radio? My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, and of course the host of the Sports Report, the man behind Sportswire Radio, alongside me to talk all things related to the world of the NFL is Mr. Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Chris Pizzea of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals. Liftoff Jets will play on the weekend here on Sportswire Radio because they're now going to be live twice on the weekend. And also, I want to say hello to Mr. Baltimore Kid. He is the host of the Be More Talkative podcast. You can also hear that they had an interesting conversation here this week. They've always got some interesting talk, and I'm going to talk to him about his podcast coming up here Tuesday night. And also, he's reached 100 listeners in his first month, so congratulations on the 100. So hopefully you get 100 more ahead and 100 more after that, and it continues to go up from there. And want to say hello here to some more people. But again, if you're on Instagram, I'm going to leave you for now, and we're just going to go head over here just to stick on to Sportswire Radio. So I'm going to share it on Facebook now. So if you're on Instagram, I really don't see any reason why we need you. So I say thank you, and there you go. Okay, so I want to say hello to somebody else here. Not very happy about the Chiefs losing, but it's okay. It's only the beginning of the season. Yeah, you know what? That's what it is. Listen, at the end of the day, I mean, it's still early, still week one. But obviously, let's go into some of the games. I think we're only expecting the brute force Brad Weiss to join us, so that gives us a good way to kind of go back into where we are. So let's go into the games here and figure out where we are. So I'm going to do that here very quickly because I want to go pick our picks. There we go. Okay, so gentlemen, we obviously spoke about the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Minnesota Vikings. So if you had the Eagles like I did and a few others, you lost. But if you had the Vikings, you actually won. So let's go in order here to what I see on our YouTube screen. And that's the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons. The dumbest team in the league is the brute force, Brad Weiss would say, but he's not here, so maybe he's the one that's got egg on his face because the Falcons are 1-0. So I'm going to go with you, Justin, first. Again, Green Bay looked very impressive, but Green Bay right now is a 1.5-point favorite. This is a toss-up, pick-em type game. I mean, a very tough game to pick, one of those classic trap games, but Green Bay, Atlanta, what's your thoughts? And anything else you might want to share on the matchup?
Yeah, before I get into that, what a god awful backdoor cover that was with the Vikings sliding in the -6.5 Eagles pick loses. Unbelievable. But all right, into Atlanta for this game. Look, a second straight road test for Jordan Love. I mean, you talk about getting tested early. 2 road environments. I think that's about as good of a test as you could get. You know, and Atlanta's defense, although it played pretty well last week against Carolina, I don't necessarily trust. Again, now we'll see what the status is of Aaron Jones for this game on Sunday. But, you know, you still have A.J. Dillon. You're getting Christian Watson back. So you'll have Watson, Dobbs, you know, and the full complement of players. And Jordan Love, like I said, was very impressive, and I think he's going to continue that this week. And I like the Packers -1.5 here. I think this is a good spot for them on the road to get to 2-0.
All right, fair enough. Again, tough one for anybody to pick. But Chris, again, Packers very impressive. Falcons got a win. I mean, certainly if you're Brad Weiss, you're going to certainly doubt on the Falcons, but they did get a win. And Green Bay looked very impressive. So, I mean, what do you think here? Packers 1.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah, you know what? I just think Green Bay is the better team right now. Jordan Love proved like he could, you know, he looks like he's going to be a pretty good quarterback. How good is he going to get? I don't know, but he looks pretty solid. Atlanta, listen, they're going to concentrate on running the ball most of the time. Ritter, we just don't know what kind of a quarterback he's going to be yet. He just doesn't look like he's there yet. And defensively, I don't know how good Atlanta is, to be honest, right now. So I'm going to take the more sure thing in Green Bay in this one, and it's only a 1.5 you said. So
yeah, 1.5. It's a pick'em game, really, pretty much.
Yeah, I'll take Green Bay in this one.
And for you, the Baltimore kid, again, Packers got an impressive win. Atlanta won kind of a he-ho-hum type of game. I guess, you know, probably people kind of thought that because they were the home team. But do the Falcons go 2-0 at home, or does Green Bay continue their impressive start with a young Jordan Love?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with the majority here. I think, you know, like I said, the Falcons getting a win, that game was, like I said last week, the battle of who sucks less. Getting a win against the Panthers to start your season was kind of to be expected, I would say. But yeah, I think if Jordan Love, you know, from that first showing, if he continues to heat up, I think Atlanta will be, you know, serving it up to him on a platter for a second win for Green Bay. I think he's going to carve him up. I really don't see him going in there and struggling, but, you know, as we like to say in football, any given Sunday. But
that's it.
I went with the majority here. I picked the Packers.
Okay, fair enough here. And before I give you my pick, Frankie wants to say Packers all the way. Jordan is the man. Yeah, and I picked the Green Bay Packers here in this matchup. I picked him here because of, again, they were very impressive last week, and maybe you see something in the Packers team, and maybe they're going to start another run here. Who knows? But yeah, Green Bay to me looks very impressive, and that's why I picked him here in this matchup. So, gentlemen, let's go to another 1 o'clock game that I have here, chronological order. And before we do that, also our odds on Yahoo, which is where we're picking for, is 64% Green Bay, 36% Atlanta. Again, pretty much a pick'em game. But let's go over to the Buffalo Bills, the 0-1 Buffalo Bills, And the 1-0 Las Vegas Raiders, the first place Las Vegas Raiders. Could this be the only time this season you say the first place Las Vegas Raiders? But yes, alas, they are. So the only team in the AFC West to have gotten a victory last week, and they did that well in 17-16 fashion over the Denver Broncos. But for you, Justin Gianelli, the Buffalo Bills at home are huge favorites here, 9.5-point favorites. I almost don't like this spread for whatever reason, but what's your thoughts here? 1 o'clock game in Orchard Park, Bills 9.5-point favorites over the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Bills are looking to bounce back after what transpired on Monday night. They didn't play a good football game, and they know that. Josh Allen was horrendous. 3 interceptions, the lost fumble. You could argue he should have had a second fumble, and they should have never blown that play dead. On the takeaway when he had a QB keep. I think it was in the first half. But with that being said, I'm also not so sold that the Bills are a great football team. There is a lot of weaknesses, and if Josh Allen's going to be turning the football, by the way, where's the run game? They still have not fixed their issue of a running game. They let Devin Singletary go in the offseason. So it's really James Cook is the number one back. They've not gotten better, and Josh Allen has gone backwards since Brian Daboll took over to be the Giants head coach. He really has. As for the Raiders, not the greatest of performances, but they came away with the win. I thought Jimmy G was solid. And listen, when he's healthy, Jimmy G just wins. You look at his record,
we spoke about it here in previous shows.
It's very good. Our main concern is always him staying healthy. So when he's out there,
into a Super Bowl, an NFC title game.
Listen, when he's out there, I think you could expect the Raiders to be a tough out, a very tough game to play against. He's still got Devontae Adams. We saw Jacoby Myers score 2 touchdowns in this game. You still got Josh Jacobs. I know Waller went to the Giants this offseason, but the Raiders are not a bad bunch. And, I'm going to take the Raiders here. I think the Bills win. But that 9.5 number
the 9.5
is
high.
not a number that I'm
high.
comfortable with in picking the Buffalo Bills to win by. I could see a 24-17 kind of deal, but I'm not comfortable with the Bills winning by double digits. So give me the Raiders plus the 9.5.
All right, we'll have to see. And Chris, and I'm very curious on what you think. Again, the Bills here at Orchard Park, historically, this is a good spot for the Bills against the Raiders. The Raiders never historically play well in Buffalo, and they never travel well early 1 o'clock games. But they're in first place. They're the only team in the AFC West with the win. The Bills struggled mightily against the Jets, especially offensively, a rare kind of thing with Josh Allen, and certainly he's facing some different questions about his play. But do the Bills get back on track, or maybe the Raiders continue their early season start and go 2-0? I mean, what do you think here with the Bills 9.5-point favorites?
Yeah, I definitely think Buffalo is going to bounce back and win. I mean, the big thing was, the point spread seemed a little high, but I think they're going to cover it. I think Buffalo bounces back in a big way. I don't think Josh Allen's going to turn the ball over 4 times again. So I don't, and they're not facing a defense like they did this previous week with the Jets, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I think that I see them winning big. I definitely see them covering. So I'll take the Bills, and give them the points.
Fair enough. And the Baltimore Kid, the Buffalo Bills, and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Bills are heavy favorites here, but the Raiders had that early season win. And do they continue the momentum, or what's your thoughts here on this matchup?
Good for the Raiders, but no. I feel like this game has redemption written all over it. Like if Josh Allen can remember which effing team he plays for and doesn't turn the ball over so many times, I'm pretty sure the conversation on the sideline, the conversation in the locker room after the game, him and Diggs are going to be hooking up a couple times this game. I see that happening. I do agree that the point spread is crazy high, but given the atmosphere, given the fact that they lost a hard loss, man, it could have gone either way, really. But no, at home, I think they cover. like I said, I feel like this is a redemption game for Josh.
That's a fair point. And before I get to my thoughts, Frankie wants to say they still lost after Aaron got injured. That's sad. I mean, the
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills. Certainly it's a good point, good take. But call me crazy, but I'm going with at the very least the Las Vegas Raiders to at least keep this close. And I picked the Raiders here, although I think Buffalo probably wins. But I think the Raiders keep it close. Like I think Justin made a great point this time in the fact that Jimmy G, and I've said this here before in the past few years on Sportswire, when he's healthy, his teams win. I mean, his numbers aren't the greatest. But he's done it before. He finds ways to win. And I kind of think the Raiders are very competitive here. I kind of think they'll be able to move the ball okay. I kind of think they'll be able to hang in. I think Buffalo wins, but I could see, I don't know, 28-21, something like that. I mean, I could see 31-24, just something in that range. I don't know. 9.5 just scares me. So I kind of think here Raiders cover, but Buffalo wins most likely. But I think the Raiders definitely keep it close here. But I'm going to move away first for the Ravens and Bengals. I want to make that my last 1 o'clock game because I want to spend a few minutes on that. But I want to go to another matchup here at 1 o'clock, and it's the Los Angeles Chargers and the Tennessee Titans. And the Tennessee Titans lost a heartbreaker, kind of a game we thought they would lose the way they did. And the Los Angeles Chargers lost, well, a game that they kind of found ways to lose over the past few years. Kind of an interesting matchup. Two teams lost maybe different ways. And, of course, our friend Anastasia Racina, huge Chargers fan. So, obviously, we have some local people here that listen to us on Sportswire that have a vested interest. So, I'm going to go with you, Justin, first. And the Chargers are a field goal favorite here. They're field goal favorites on the road against the Titans. Do the Titans maybe find a way to bounce back at home, or do the Chargers find a way to bounce back and Justin Herbert maybe has the ball a little bit more and makes some more plays? And what do you think here in this matchup?
Well, listen, two things happened in week one that that give you red flags on both sides. Start with the Chargers. Their defense was absolutely atrocious. Listen, I know the Dolphins have a ton of talent with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Tua had a tremendous game, and they ran the ball well with Raheem Mostert. That Dolphin offense is explosive and one of the best in the NFL. With that being said, that LA defense was absolutely atrocious. I mean, you got to do better. As good as Miami is, you got to do better than that defensively. So that was a major red flag. As for Tennessee, the major red flag is I don't think they know which quarterback they really want to start. They're starting Tannehill, but I think there's some confusion. Will Levis was inactive last week, making Malik Willis the backup. And they drafted Malik Willis in the third round out of Liberty last year, but he wasn't – he apparently is – they're not sold on him. And at some point, you got to figure Will Levis is going to get the shot in Tennessee. And Tannehill just is not it. You saw that game against New Orleans. They were just not – they couldn't do anything on offense. It was just – and I know – New Orleans is going to have a pretty good defense this year, I think. But, I mean, they were putrid offensively. I like the Chargers in this game. I think that, they did a lot of great things on offense. I know Eckler is listed as doubtful, but, Joshua Kelly, will step in at running back. You still got Mike Williams. You still got Keenan Allen. They're still loaded on offense, and I think they'll be able to they'll be able to put up some points on this Tennessee defense. So give me the Chargers -3.
Yeah, I think you could certainly make the case that, listen, the Chargers should never have given up the amount of yards that they gave to Tua. And even then, they were still in possession to win the game with less than 5 minutes left. So it's kind of, again, a typical Chargers type of loss, kind of been the Chargers' way. And the Titans, again, these are things we've spoke about over the past 3 years on Sportswire. About Tannehill and the Titans, and they just can't move the ball. They have a good team, but they don't have the right quarterback, and that's kind of where they are. And Chris, again, the Chargers are a field goal favorite on the road against Tennessee. Again, Tennessee at home, maybe they play well, they bounce back. Derrick Henry just gets the ball, runs all day. Or maybe the Chargers, do they bounce back here? Again, Herbert didn't have the ball as much as you like, but you still moved the ball pretty well, and you should have won. But what do you think here in this 1 o'clock matchup with the Chargers? 3-point favorites on the road in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think things are going to start to get really ugly for Tennessee this year. Their defense is going to keep the games within reach because they do have a tough defense, but their offense is just, not good. It's either Derrick Henry or nothing. So if you could shut down Derrick Henry, and maybe he's starting to lose a little bit because of all the carries this guy's had over the years.
Yeah, I mean they have just
maybe he's starting to get to that
400
point
touches
where
in a year. Yep.
Those miles are adding up.
Yeah, they are. He's taken a beating over the years. So, but he is a monster. So maybe he'll be fine. But yeah, I like the Chargers also. They offensively they are gonna end up putting up points because eventually the defense is gonna get tired, right? Because the offense is just gonna go 3 and out a lot or not spend that much time on there. So the defense is just gonna be out there, and eventually they're gonna get worn out by the end of the game. So I think eventually you'll see the Chargers cover that game. So
fair enough. And Mr. Baltimore Kid, Chargers and the Titans, again, both teams lost, but for different reasons, but still heartbreaking losses for teams that would obviously like to have better seasons. Titans would like to return to the postseason in a very weak AFC South. Chargers would like to certainly advance and certainly show people that they're an emerging elite team. But what do you think here with the Chargers 3-point favorites on the road, 1:00 in Tennessee?
Sounds about right to me. I don't think this game is going to be anything super special. Now, as we said, or as it's been mentioned quite a few times, you shut down Henry, you shut down the Titans. Now with LA having a horrible defense, if Henry gets hot, man, whew. But I think given the state of things, I'm gonna go with my gut here, and I took the Chargers.
I think a lot of us are in this matchup. I'm kind of waiting for somebody to be different here. I guess you could make the case, well, maybe this is the kind of defense that Henry could get hot. But yeah, I mean, I think we're all in agreement here because I think Chris was the one that said it best. The Chargers offensively played a pretty good game last week.
Yeah.
And should have won. And that's a game, again, the Chargers, that's the kind of game they've lost over these past few years. But I kind of think for whatever reason, Tennessee's going in the wrong direction. And you have the feeling for whatever reason, Tennessee is going to struggle. It's going to be a long season for them, certainly kind of a carryover from last year in the second half of the season where they kind of fell and stumbled there and stumbled their way out of the postseason. And I kind of think that the Chargers rectify their loss last week and get back on track and go 1-1. So we have that coverage. And let's go to another game. It's kind of I don't know, maybe if I would avoid this one or if I had a chance to on the clicker and these different games, if you have red zone or other ways to watch these games. But we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chicago Bears, Justin Gianelli. And the Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites here at home. And again, the Bears did not look impressive at all last week. And the Buccaneers won kind of, I guess if they're going to be successful, they're going to have to win those Todd Bowles type of grinded out games that we saw his first year with the Jets many years ago where they won 10 games and they kind of found ways, almost that Fitz magic. And maybe there's something left here from this Bucs team with it. But what do you think here? Bucs home opener, Bucs, Bears, Bucs 2.5-point favorites here, 1:00 kickoff.
Well, one thing you can be certain of is that Todd Bowles is going to put together some respectable defenses.
Yeah.
The defenses with the Jets were pretty respectable. The offense was trash. That's partly why things didn't work here. But Baker Mayfield, man, he plays balls to the wall, and he was dealing the other day. That game in Minnesota to go on the road and win that game 20-17. I was more than impressed. The Bucs still have a solid roster. You still got Evans, you still got Godwin. Their offense is still pretty good. Their defense and their defense came to play. Like I mentioned, their defense came to play, and they were able to beat the Vikings on the road and go into this game against a Bears team that played about as poorly. Well, we know who played the poorest last week, but one of the poorer performances was the Chicago Bears, and like I said, Justin Fields looked like a deer in the headlights. And in year 3, that can't happen. It's the same thing we're going to talk about later when we talk about Zach Wilson with the Jets. You can't look deer in the headlights year 3, and Justin Fields just did not look comfortable out there. The Packers defense pressured him to no end. I think they were the 3rd most pressured team in the league this week during week 1. I'm sorry, 2nd most pressured team in the league, and he didn't know where to go with the ball. They neutralized his running game. I can't see them winning a lot of games this year, so I'm going to take Tampa here. I like that 2.5 point spread because it gives me a nice little hook where Bucks win by a field goal, you win your bet. So I'm going to take the Bucks minus 2.5.
All right, fair enough. And my apologies. I'm actually trying to mount my phone so I could share actually our link on Facebook on another few groups, but I just can't do it yet. So I'll try it one more time and move on. But yeah, I agree with you completely. The Bucks, listen, there's still some roster there that's had some experience, that they've done some good things. Bowles is a decent coach. Maybe again in a weak division, you get a win here. You're 2-0. You feel good about yourself. And listen, that's a better start than they would a lot of people would have expected them to get on. So we'll have to see if that happens. But Chris, do the Chicago Bears get back on track, or do the Bucks continue their momentum? It's kind of a weird matchup here. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, 2 weird teams. I mean, I guess Tampa, if you believe in them, okay, fine. The Bears, maybe people were expecting a little bit better play from them at home last week, but Tampa's mild favorites here, 2.5 at home, 1 o'clock against Chicago. What do you think?
Yeah, listen, until Justin Fields starts, throwing the ball better and can beat you with his arm, I don't think you can touch Chicago in any games. Because Justin Fields is just not there as a passer yet. Maybe he gets there eventually, but right now we haven't seen it. And I think Bowles is going to keep him contained to a certain degree and just keep him in the pocket and force him to beat them with his arms, right? With his arm, I should say, instead of his legs. So, and Tampa Bay will do just enough offensively, with Baker Mayfield. And they'll score enough points against Chicago's defense, which has not been good. And they're still not good. So, take Tampa Bay. And like Justin said, they can win by a field goal and you're covering here. And it's probably going to be more than a field goal the way that these two teams are playing right now.
Yeah, that's maybe why people kind of like this matchup here. And I mean, you could certainly see why. And obviously, again, here, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of betting, 64% Yahoo has it for Tampa, 36% for Chicago. Earlier matchups were 71% Chargers, 29% Tennessee. Actually, in Buffalo, Vegas, 54% Vegas, 46% for the Bills, probably because of the spread. But for you, the Baltimore kid, again, these are 2 teams, I guess, kind of hard to get a read on. Obviously, Tampa Bay lost the big cheese. You might want to call it the tribal cheese of quarterbacks, to quote one of our favorite wrestlers on Sportswire, and obviously Mr. Tom Brady. But did they get a win last week? A nice win on the road. And the Bears did not look good last week. And you're going to certainly, obviously, hear some questions there. But what do you think? I think people probably like the spread. But what do you think here in this matchup with the Bucks 2.5 point favorites at home, 1 o'clock against those Bears?
Yeah, I think if roles were reversed and maybe if the Bears were at home, Justin Fields gets that crowd behind him, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was road jitters, maybe he's just terrible. The time will tell, I guess. No, I think they're not going to be able to walk into Tampa and do anything of note. Like I said, it's still too early to tell. I mean, can't put the jury out on the guy already, but I don't know. I'm giving this one to Baker.
Okay, you know what? I think people are going to certainly be very high on them. And listen, I got the Chicago Bears actually, because for whatever reason, I kind of think I still don't trust Baker Mayfield. I still don't trust this Bucks team. I kind of think Fields has something to play for. At times, he's shown you flashes. And I kind of also think this is one of the games early where somebody has to pick differently, because I've noticed a lot of games are all picking the same. So while I had no idea what you guys picked, I did kind of think here, for whatever reason, maybe the Bears could find a way to win this one, but we'll have to see. That there's obviously be games that some of us will pick differently. But speaking of games here, that'll be very, very tough to watch, I'm sure, in the 1 o'clock hour. Let's go to it, Justin Gianelli, and the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. Obviously, these are two teams that very well could be in the basement in the NFL standings this year. Texans were pretty much there. Colts pretty much weren't too far behind. And again, it's an interesting matchup. I guess if you're picking, you have to pick somebody here, and it's a 1.5-point favorites are the Colts on the road in Houston. I mean, what do you think? This is one of those games like you have to pick somebody, but it's kind of almost like you don't want to pick this game if you didn't have to. So, who do you pick here in this matchup?
This is literally as coin flip as it gets. I mean, man, the Colts and the Texans, yikes. Well, I know one thing, barring that very rare tie, somebody's getting their first NFL win, whether it's C.J. Stroud or it's Anthony Richardson. I'm gonna take the Texans here, just because they're at home. Really don't have much other hard hitting analysis. The Colts looked good at times last week. They played pretty competitive with Jacksonville. Michael Pittman got going. They were able. Richardson scored his first rushing touchdown of his career, so they look good at times. And Houston kind of hung tough defensively with the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were a little unconvincing in their win over the Texans on Sunday. So I think if C.J. Stroud could generate a little bit more offense, and I think he'll be able to do just enough in this game to beat the Colts. But if you have the choice between going outside and watching this game, go outside, please.
Well, what's the weather in New York on Sunday in New York, New Jersey? If it's like over 75,
nice, I think, right?
If it's over 75, I'm going to be outside. That's what you're basically telling me at 1 o'clock. So yeah, I'll definitely be somewhere.
Well, hopefully it's not on for us, right?
Well, I actually have a way to watch all the games, but you pretty much basically told me what I wanted to do anyway Sunday afternoon, because I'm live tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to be live Sunday night now. And before I get to you, Chris, I want to say hello to, I believe, if it is Mr. Omen Black, obviously. Speaking of Mr. Black, I believe now, Mr. Baltimore Kid, you're going to have somebody on your show that I'm going to get a chance to listen to very soon that Mr. Black knows very well, I believe. And Mr. Can I say his name? Am I able to say his name?
Sure, go for it.
Mr. James Taylor, the Nemesis James Taylor himself, the legendary Nemesis James Taylor, formerly of TBW, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And speaking of Omen, now I'm glad Omen's here because Omen could actually talk, because we were supposed to do a show with a company called Wrestling Championship Entertainment, but basically they decided that they couldn't really cut the mustard on Sportswire and they couldn't talk anymore. That basically they've decided to kind of exit stage left. Now it's pretty much true what I just said, but obviously I want to say hello to Omen there and the guys in the IMF. And in fact, we're going to have the guys on next weekend. So I'm going to have IMF in the house. So it'll be an IMF takeover of Omen show next Sunday night. So
you know what they say, when you gots to go, you gots to go.
Yeah, they unfortunately, for their sake, they're going to be going. But they're going to be going because they're not coming on. I mean, so that's pretty much nothing I can do. But speaking of people that'll be here, we'll get to him last because he's here last. Obviously, fresh off the Barclays Center from the Long Island Railroad, the brute force Brad Weiss, Mr. Level Up. He's leveling up in here to come on the show, but we'll get to him last. And I'm not going to ask you about the games we picked, but I'm going to get to the games in the future just because of the interest of time. But Chris, I want to go over to the Colts and Texans. This is almost like a pick your poison matchup. Somebody has to win here. Colts are very mild favorites for what that is worth. Somebody does have to win, although Justin makes the point we could have a tie. But for the interest of our league and picks, who do you got?
It's funny you said a tie because they did tie last year. Just to throw that out there. This really is a coin flip game, like you explained it earlier. I think I picked in this group. I think I picked Indianapolis, and I think on the show, on the liftoff show, I think I picked Houston. So because literally it's a coin flip. And just to add a little bit to it, if anybody needs a little more push to go one way or the other. The Colts actually own the series. I think I was just looking it up. They're 32-10-1 against the Texans over these years that they've played against each other. And the one tie was last season. So a tie is not going to be out of the picture here. So it might do it. But Justin said it right. One of these rookie quarterbacks is going to get their first win, hopefully. And we'll see which one it's going to be, And Richardson's, I think he looked pretty decent last week. Made some mistakes, but that's what you're going to get out of these rookie quarterbacks. They're going to look good at times and they're going to make mistakes. So try to limit them as much as possible at this point,
Again, somebody has to win, and we'll have to find out. I know one of our upcoming shows on sportnarium.com/player, the Protect Life podcast, hosted by Jeremy Crafton and Justin Parsleys, a.k.a. from XCW. They'll have an opinion on this. But the Baltimore Kid, again, somebody has to win this game. So somebody has to win. In the interest of picking the Colts and Texans, 1.5-point favorites. So the Colts, who do you got?
I have nothing intelligent to offer on this one. I picked the Colts just because. Just because someone has to win. And I have to believe that the Colts are better than Houston. That's about it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much safe to say. Now, the brute force, Brad Weiss, obviously, I can't really tease you on if you want to go with an upset here and kind of sell you on one team over another, because these teams are pretty much they're equals. I mean, it's a 1.5-point spread only. So I'm not going to bore you just yet. I'm going to try to sell you in a couple of games. We have a couple of 1 o'clock games left, which I've saved you for. Obviously, Seahawks, Lions, Ravens, and Bengals. So I saved the best for the 1 o'clock hour for last, which will certainly get your hard-hitting analysis on. But somebody has to win, and who do you think actually wins this game?
Well, like the guys are saying, hello, everybody. It's a great night to be in New York because I am so hyped and so excited after Liberty just won an amazing game. But truly, when it comes to amazing games, this is not the game that you're going to see here with the Colts and the Texans. In fact, I would rather watch this game blindfolded than watch it at all, to be honest with you. But
would you want to try that on the 1 o'clock hour? Would you want to try to watch this blindfolded?
I could try, but listen, I will not do that. I will gladly not watch this, probably ending up to be 13-6 game, in my opinion. But I will say the Colts do win. Again, I'm not excited with this pick. I'm not like, I'm kind of like Chris Bizet. I wanted to go half and half on this one because I just don't believe in the Colts enough. But I'll take them. They should be the better team. And if they're not, that's embarrassing on their part.
Okay, fair enough here. And then I know I have John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group who's given me a couple of different points, but I got to go pick the game. I appreciate that, John. I got the Houston Texans because they're at home. I kind of think maybe home counts for something. The Colts did not really like what I saw in the second half of the game last week for what that's worth. So I'm basically going with the old adage, Texans at home, Texans win, home opener. But again, it's a classic pick'em game. So that's pretty much where we go from there with that. But let's go over to the Baltimore Kid first. I want to go with you first because I want to go with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Boy, the Cincinnati Bengals, certainly a team that a lot of people really were disappointed in last week. And the Baltimore Ravens, a lot of teams I'm hearing from people, from fans of, and different shows that I'm listening to saying the Baltimore Ravens, maybe they're the kings of the AFC North this year. You know this division. You know these teams better than anybody, so I'm going right for the jugular. I have the Cincinnati Bengals at home, 3.5-point favorites against the Baltimore Ravens, 1 o'clock game. What do you think? I mean, I'm going to imagine you're going with the Ravens, but for those that are listening and watching on Sportzwire Radio, tell me why.
Again, and I'm going to be a realist. Like I said, I think it's too early right now. Obviously, I picked the home team. Got to go with the boys. But I mean, honestly, if you were Zay Flowers, if you are Roquan Smith, you had a fantastic game. For the rest of the guys, there needs to be some improvements. I mean, OBJ only got one touch. Would definitely like to see him get more involved in this game. I don't think that Andrews is going to be coming back, which is still a little bit worrying. Just for the simple fact that, you know, a lot of people have said that Andrews is Jackson's security blanket, which, you know, I guess that's neither here nor there, but he is a big factor to have in a game, especially against a division rival, and to not have him there could hurt. Now, Cincy coming off a loss the way they did against Cleveland, got to think that they're looking for retribution here too. But for them to go back to back in our division, man, what a what a
Well, they did
test.
start 0-2 last year. So, I mean, last year they did start 0-2. So, it wouldn't be abnormal for the
Right.
Bengals to get off to a slow start. You could look at it that way from that vantage point.
I think though that you know, it is fair to say that Burrow was knocking off some rust.
Sure.
You know, I don't ever want to count Burrow out, especially not with the weapons he has either. But you know what? Like I said, I feel like if there's any chance that the Ravens make a statement this year, it is to walk into Cincy and just straight up punch them in the mouth. Which I'm hoping to see. I'm wishing for the best. Let's put it that
way. Well, I think we might want to see some punches in the mouth. I mean, it could hopefully be a little bit of a wrestling carryover there. I'm sure there will be some sparks that'll definitely fly. And I'll go to Justin. But before I do that, I want to actually plug a group or a kind of company that we're hoping that'll come on board for Sportswire and do some work with us. They're called Dooley, and they're at dooley.com. You can catch them on Instagram at Dooley Official, and they're led by a guy, Ed Pizzo. Also behind them is Maria Tasai and Jerry, and they've been supporters of us. They've watched our shows here on Sportswire Radio. And what they do is they're looking to put together a website where people can vote, whether it's on a wrestling match, on the stipulations, or who wins, who loses, or a big football game in terms of the spread, in terms of the amount of points, or whatever else that's out there in a game. They do it with NASCAR. They're looking to branch into other things, specifically in wrestling. And we've caught our attention here from them on Sportswire Radio. So we're hoping that people would check them out, sign up, go to dooley.com, Instagram as well, Dooley Official. So say hello to them for us and tell them that Sportswire Radio sent you. But before I get to you, Justin, Mr. Frankie the Villain would like to say, sorry, I'm picking the Bengals. Joe Burrow is a good quarterback. Yeah, he's definitely a good quarterback. We'll have to see. But, Justin, I mean, what do you think here? Bengals certainly have wanting the ability to get back on track. It's a rivalry game. It's another one. Ravens played well enough. I mean, 25-9 was a comfortable win. It wasn't really a great game, but they didn't need to be great because they beat the Texans, and then pretty much everybody's going to beat the Texans these days. But Ravens definitely have something to prove. Last year, if you remember the playoff game, and the Bengals, again, a lot of people are obviously looking now what happens with Burrow, but they're 3.5-point favorites at home against the Ravens, 1 o'clock. And what do you think? Do the Bengals get back on track, or do the Ravens start the year strong with a 2-0 statement victory on the road in Cincinnati?
I think you're going to see one of the angriest teams of football on Sunday, and that's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Joe Burrow comes back with a vengeance. I think there's something unsettling to them about losing the way they did to their in-state rival, not just divisional rival, in-state rival, the Cleveland Browns. And that's a team that they've had trouble with over the last couple of years, especially in the Joe Burrow era. With that being said, I think they're going to come out here and punch Baltimore in the mouth. I think Baltimore's not ready for it. I think the loss of J.K. Dobbins is going to be bigger than I think we can realize. You know, the combination of Justice Hill and Gus Edwards just doesn't compute to what you could get out of J.K. Dobbins. I wasn't all that impressed with the wide receivers. Again, like the Baltimore kid said, one catch, one touch for Odell Beckham. You got to think that they're going to get him more involved, especially if Mark Andrews is out yet again. And, you know, obviously Isaiah Likely, the starting tight end. I just don't know if Baltimore is going to have enough firepower and consistency on offense. And I think Cincinnati's defense is going to step up. I think their defense is a little bit embarrassed too. I think all around they played a very poor game in Sunday in Cleveland. And I expect them to bounce back in a big way. So I like them by about a touchdown. So I'll take the 3.5 with the Bengals here.
Fair enough. And Chris, again, Ravens, Bengals, obviously the last couple of years, these teams definitely don't like each other. We've seen what happened in the playoffs last year, and we know, obviously, again, the Ravens are going to look to settle some scores, and the Bengals got off to an atrocious start last week. Maybe Burrow being rusty, maybe on the road. Browns have actually played, to Justin's point, really well against Cincinnati of late, but they are 3.5-point favorites, are the Cincinnati Bengals at home against the Baltimore Ravens, 1 o'clock. Do the Bengals go 1-1 and even the score, or do the Ravens get an early statement win here and go 2-0?
You know what? I think the Ravens are going to start off a little slow this year anyway because of that new offense that they're implementing, obviously. And you also got new receivers as well on top of all that. So the Ravens might start off a little slow, and now you got J.K. Dobbins out, so that's gonna, hurt the running game as well. And you got to expect Cincinnati to bounce back. Cincinnati is loaded on both sides of the ball. I could definitely see this game getting not out of hand, but I could definitely see Cincy covering pretty easily in this one. And they've won, I think, 4 of the last 5 against Baltimore. So I'm going to take Cincy in this one to cover, pretty easily.
Now, I'm very curious to hear what the brute force Bradley Weiss has to say, because he was just at a playoff game between the Washington Mystics and the New York Liberty. And this will be, for all intensive purposes, a playoff game. In week 2, a playoff game between the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals, again, looking to get back on track, looking to go 1-1. Bengals, again, have a lot to prove, but the Ravens here, they could be 2-0 and they get a nice win on the road and show people, you know what, this is the Ravens division. If you look at the last 10 years, who has been the division at the top in the AFC North? It has been the Baltimore Ravens. So you could certainly make that case here with an early win. So for you, the brute force Bradley Weiss, do the Ravens look to reclaim their firm grip in the AFC North over the past decade, or do the Cincinnati Bengals even things up, get a nice win at home as they're 3.5-point favorites, 1 o'clock matchup?
Yeah, so if I was going to base this game off grudges, then I would have picked the Ravens because, ladies and gentlemen, I had Joe Burrow, I had T. Higgins, and I had Dallas Goedert in fantasy last week, and they combined for 4 points out of 3 players.
Even I would have knew that, basically, after what I saw last week in the total points.
And I lost by 1 point, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want me to talk about grudges I can hold on these players, then I would take Baltimore. With that being said, as an analyst, all right, I'm going to pick the Cincinnati Bengals, okay? And the reason why I'm going to pick the Cincinnati Bengals are for the reasons that Chris and Justin just alluded to. Mm-hmm. First of all, this is a team that's going to play very angry and upset. And listen, I said it last week on the show. The reason why I was a little bit tentative of pitching Cincinnati last week is because I knew their struggles against Cleveland. They struggled against Cleveland.
Mentioned that
especially, at their place, they always struggle. So, but the one place they haven't struggled much is at home. They have not. They've played very well at home. Joe Burrow, we know, TBK said, he's getting the rust out. He was out for a while. I think he kind of did that last week. I think this week it's going to be a different Joe Burrow. You're going to see a different, Jamar Chase. You're going to see a different Joe Mixon. There's going to be a lot of players playing at a really high level for Cincinnati. And, listen, like Chris said, Baltimore is still trying to get the kinks in. J.K. Dobbins, very big loss. So I don't know what they're going to do there. And ultimately, I just think Cincinnati's going to be hungry. I'm not saying Baltimore won't, but I think Cincinnati will. And I wasn't again, we were talking about this last week where, Baltimore beats teams that are weaker, but they struggle to for some reason. I didn't feel like that was a great win. They won, but it wasn't a great win. So that's the reason why.
But 25-9 though is still 25-9. It wasn't
but it's 25-9 against the Texans.
It could have been a little more convincing. That would have made me want to go the other way.
But this isn't college football though, where basically you get the top 25 and they look at, okay, well, you didn't win by 20. You should have won by 50. They don't look at it that way. They don't care so much. The NFL wins a win. This isn't college football. This isn't the BCS, Brad.
I get that, but I'm not using it for that. I'm just saying I'm using it towards my pick this week, saying that if they would have given me more ammunition.
but they comfortably won last week. I don't have a problem with the Ravens.
Like you said, Tom, almost everybody's going to win comfortably against the Texans. So, it's just
exactly.
a matter of how much you show us, like what you show us against the team. I didn't see enough to really convince me that they're going to beat Cincinnati this week.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm actually going to go with the Baltimore Ravens here because the Baltimore Ravens, to me, I think they have something to prove. I think the Baltimore Ravens here want to have a firm grip here in the AFC North. And if you look at it early on here, I mean, the Bengals last year struggled. They started the year 0-2, and the Bengals, maybe, again, they're adjusting. Maybe it's Joe Burrow who hasn't had a lot of reps here so far when it comes into the last few weeks. Maybe he's the one that's getting accustomed to the offense. I get it that the Bengals have all these weapons, but maybe the Ravens are the ones this year have a chip on their shoulder. Maybe it's the Ravens who want to get back and win the AFC North because they know last year, they know what the year before happened in terms of just their overall lack of postseason success. Even the last 4 or 5 years, if you look at this Ravens team, they've won a lot of games, and we spoke about this in prior years on Sportswire. Brad, you've been on Sportswire probably longer than almost everybody on the panel here, and we've spoke about that in the past. Lamar Jackson was an NFL MVP. We look at even last year's team won a lot of games. And the Ravens have won a lot of games, and I think here, if you get a win, I know it's early, but to go 2-0 in the AFC North and to have a divisional win in your belt, under your feather, I mean, I kind of think for whatever reason, Baltimore finds a way and Cincinnati gets off to an 0-2. So I don't think it's fatal for Cincinnati because Cincinnati still has all the weapons and they started 0-2 last year. But I kind of think here Baltimore gets a mild upset here, and I think they win in Cincinnati. That's just my perspective on that there. So somebody had to go different, but
Okay.
Brad, I want to go to you actually next because this is the game I saved for last in the 1 o'clock hour. This was the game. I couldn't pick this game without you, Brad, because I was so excited to hear what you had to say about those Detroit Lions once again. And obviously the chance to go 2-0 here and the Lions and Seahawks. Remember last year's game? I mean, that game was a true shootout. That was one of the better games I watched in the league all last year. And ironically, that was the game that nudged the Lions out of the playoffs. So I know if you're Dan Campbell and the Lions, you got to have this game circled on the calendar about 3 or 4 months ago. So I am very curious. The brute force Bradley Weiss, your perspective. The Detroit Lions, 5.5-point favorites over the Seattle Seahawks, who did not look impressive at all last week. For those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, are you going with the Detroit Lions, and you're going with them convincingly to go 2-0? Your thoughts?
Well, Tom, you're trying to persuade me to do this, but I'm going to do this. I mean,
I gotta still do it anyway, Brad. People want that.
All right, I'm going to pick Detroit to win. With that being said, though, I'm actually going to do something very interesting. All right, I'm going to say Detroit wins, but I'm taking Seattle with the spread. I think that
this is only 5.5, though. This is not like 9.
Yeah, I think this is
9.5 with Bills Raiders.
I think this is going to be another very close game. I really do. I think Seattle. I know against Seattle. And by the way, I got that pick right last week. That was a big one for me. I picked the Rams, and that was a great one. But with that being said, Seattle, they didn't get off to a great start. We know they're a tough, gritty team. We know they're going to be better in week 2. And again, I know Detroit proved to us that their defense is much better. Last year, the defense was the issue in this matchup because they let up 48 damn points.
48-45, correct.
I mean, it was ridiculous. They couldn't stop them. So I do think they'll do a better job. I think both sides will do a better job stopping each other. And I do think that this will be a lower scoring game, not low scoring, but lower than last year. And I think it's going to be a very close game, but the better team will prevail this year. The better team and the team that's going to win their division is the Detroit Lions. Okay. And we said this from day one. I think the Vikings are starting to show you why we should pick the Detroit Lions. And I think the Detroit Lions are the team to beat in that division and are one of the top teams in the NFC.
And before I get to a comment from somebody that I may even see on Sportswire on Sunday, I mean, the Detroit Lions, 5.5-point favorites at home, Brad, doesn't happen too often. I mean, think about it. 5.5-point favorites at home against a team like the Seahawks. I mean, that does not happen that too often here. And I want to say hello here to somebody that I know the Baltimore kid is going to have on his podcast, the Nemesis James Taylor. He wants to chime in, of course, legendary wrestler. He says here that no, the Cowboys will win this year. And he's from Alabama, so it's kind of cowboy country in Alabama. And of course, you want to follow him on YouTube at Taft Taylor, Instagram Taft_Taylor. This guy's got almost 80,000 subscribers. So when the Nemesis James Taylor says something, he's trying like candy bars now, potato chips. He's trying sodas, all these different things on his YouTube page. But he likes the Dallas Cowboys, so maybe he has a reason on that. But Justin, the Detroit Lions, 5.5-point favorites over the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks did not look too impressive last week. Maybe to play devil's advocate, which I really don't want to do on my Detroit Lions, but Pete Carroll is a great coach. He is a Hall of Fame coach. He is going to go to Canton whenever he decides to retire, and maybe he gets these Seahawks to adjust and find a way to win. They've already got a win on their belt last year. This is a team that obviously made the playoffs because of that win over the Lions. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, do the Detroit Lions go 2-0, Justin Gianelli, or maybe the Seattle Seahawks pull off a mild upset on the road here, 1 o'clock, as they're 5.5-point underdogs against our beloved Detroit Lions?
Yeah, listen, like I said before, when I was talking about how impressed I was with the Rams' performance on Sunday against the Seahawks, I said this is not indicative of the Seahawks team that you'll see all year long. However, with that being said, I think they're running into a buzzsaw right now. I think the Detroit Lions are going to pound them, and I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. That 5.5 number is gorgeous to look at because I think they're going to win by at least a touchdown. The way Jared Goff's been playing, he's been playing out of his mind.
That's why I'm disappointed in Brad, because 5.5, I mean, this is not 9.5. 5.5 is a comfortable outcome to kind of pick the Lions here in this spot. I'm disappointed in you, Bradley Weiss.
He doesn't have faith in his beloved Lions, I guess.
I guess he's jumping off the bandwagon. Usually people come off the bandwagon. He's jumping off the bandwagon.
I said they were going to win.
But you didn't
Not
pick
much
them,
confidence.
though. You picked the Seahawks.
I picked the Seahawks in the spread. You got to make sure you're clear on that. I picked them in the spread. I picked the Lions to win. I'm very clear on that.
Listen. I think they can easily win this game by a touchdown. They lose DeAndre Swift in the offseason, and you saw what he did last night with Philadelphia. But you get Jahmyr Gibbs, you have David Montgomery as well. Their passing game is, like I said, with the way Goff is playing has been tremendous. St. Brown is unguardable, and the improvement of that defense for the Detroit Lions, you saw it. And I know the Chiefs were missing Kelsey and all that, but Mahomes usually finds ways, and for him to not be able to pull it off, I think is a big testament to the way the Lions played.
Yep.
So give me the Lions, and I'm pretty comfortable with that 5.5 number.
For you, Chris, again, Lions 5.5-point favorites here against the Seahawks. Seahawks definitely did not look impressive last week. The Lions are certainly the darlings right now of the NFL, and they had a strong finish to end the season. They have a strong start to this season early on. And do the Lions go 2-0? Or maybe Pete Carroll is this great coach and finds a way to get the Seahawks to adjust and get a win again on the road? And what do you think?
And you know what? Seattle, just for a little history, Seattle's won, I think, the last 5 times these two teams have played. Yep. So maybe,
I think you're right on that.
Brad's onto something. Maybe, Seattle's going to keep it close, and maybe they could squeak out a win. But I don't see that happening. I think Detroit's going to win. I think they're going to cover easily. And it's going to be probably a sellout crowd, right? Didn't they sell out their whole season, I think? So the crowd's going to be big time.
We know people aren't going to Tigers games, so I mean, obviously,
or Pistons or whatever else. So yeah,
Red Wings aren't that great right now.
So unlike Brad, I have confidence.
Wow!
In covering,
that was good. That was awesome. That was a good one.
Brad's beloved Lions. So I believe they're going to cover.
That was excellent. That was very, very well, very, very well done. And the Baltimore Kid, again, Lions, 5.5-point favorites over the Seahawks. Seahawks, again, did not look impressive. Lions, obviously, talk of the league. I mean, what do you think here in this matchup, my friend?
Yeah, no, I don't think history repeats itself at all. I think the Lions are a team to be beat right now. And I absolutely think that the atmosphere in Detroit is going to be electric.
It's going to be as loud as SummerSlam, right, TBK?
They've got everything going for them. And you know what? I'm going to go on record. I know it's early. I think they pulled out the upset of the season. Beating the Super Bowl champs at home, the Lions.
I mean, it's
I think they ride high on that momentum. That's what I'm going with.
It's interesting because if you would say, and I think I said this last week on the show, the Lions ended the season, ending Aaron Rodgers' career in Green Bay, and basically really could have ended his career, frankly. And then you go on the road to defeat the Super Bowl champions. The opening week, national television, Lions are almost never in this spot historically. So that's a point that could be made because, again, Lions are never opening the season. Lions are never in this spot. Maybe that momentum carries over. It's a franchise that has just had very little success, but maybe, listen, the stars might align here. So it's a fair point. And obviously, I mean, Brad, who do you think I'm picking?
Oh, well, you got to pick the Lions. Come on.
Duh.
I'm picking the Lions to win. Come on. Let's make it clear.
I'm picking the Lions to win comfortably. I'm picking them to win by at least 2 touchdowns. So in this matchup, I'm going with them.
2 touchdowns. Wow. Okay.
It doesn't matter as long as they win by 6. It could be 6 or 100, right? It doesn't matter at that point.
That's true.
But I have one more game to pick in the 1:00 hour, and it's a good one. And it's 2 teams that we saw last year in the playoffs. Speaking of teams we saw last year in the divisional round. And I want to start with you, the Brute Force, Bradley, because I'm really curious on what you think in this matchup. That's the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And another team like the Lions, kind of not used to being in this spot. And Jaguars played okay. I think they had a good second half, and they got a win. Colts were hanging there for a while, but Jaguars won a game that I think most people expected them to win. Well, I think except me, because I was the dummy that picked the Colts, because I was listening to our future show, Protect Life podcast from Jeremy Crafton and Justin Parsley, and they were selling me on the Colts. But the Brute Force, I'd be so curious on what you think here, because the Chiefs, maybe it's an early season backs against the wall matchup. They are 3.5-point favorites here on the road. The line has actually moved in their favor the past few days, which I kind of find fascinating. But again, Jaguars at home, Jaguars you feel good about. A lot of momentum right now. People think they're the darlings of the AFC. And who do you think wins here in this matchup? It's a really interesting early season rematch of the AFC divisional playoff round.
Yeah, so first of all, I just got a message from John Gonzalez telling me, are you kidding me? Lions by 10, the revenge game.
I'm glad.
He's been on me about this bet.
Thank you, John Gonzalez.
All right, well, listen, I'll be the last one laughing when the only one get it right. But anyway, what I will say is this. With this game in particular, listen, I'm not really sure which way I'm going to go for the win.
This is a tough one. This is a very tough matchup to pick.
I don't know which one I'm going to go to pick to win, but I did pick a spread pretty easily. I think I'm going to take Jacksonville with that plus 3.5. I think I feel pretty good about this game being close, and I think that it could go either way. It might be a game-winning field goal on one side or the other, or a close game that comes down to the end. So if I had to put my money on the pick, I would probably take Kansas City to win the game late, but I will take Jacksonville with the spread and feel very confident about that 3.5.
It's a tough one. That's really, again, one of those pick'em type games here. And before I get to Justin, Frankie wants to say Jaguars get an upset. Trevor Lawrence looks good this season. And Mr. Gonzalez has some comments. I'm going to play those comments at the end of the panel. But Justin, again, Jaguars, again, early season darling, kind of like the Lions. Chiefs are in a spot they haven't been used to. Do the Chiefs kind of come back, bounce back here, get a win? Or maybe the Jaguars put themselves as a real player in the AFC with a win here and kind of redeem themselves from last year's AFC divisional playoff?
Well, there's a term we use to describe a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that is a live dog. That's what they are in this game. They are a very live dog, even to the point where I think the Jaguars could pull this bad boy out. Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be a good football team this year. Now, I know they leaked a little bit of oil on defense. I don't think they played all that great. I think their game could step up a little bit better.
Sure.
But the marriage between Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence has been a marriage of perfection. And they win the AFC South last year. They make the miraculous comeback on the Chargers, the 27-0 deficit. And they gave the Chiefs all they can handle in the postseason. And I know Patrick Mahomes was on one leg, and I know Kelsey's coming back for this game. and is going to play. Chris Jones will make a season debut as well. But this Jacksonville Jaguars team is a good football team, and I don't think people understand how big of an impact Calvin Ridley has on this Jaguar offense. I mean, with him and Zay Jones and Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne, there are weapons galore. And the Chiefs just don't have those weapons. You know, they have Travis Kelce, but you saw the garbage they had at wide receiver. You know, Patrick Mahomes can only do so much, and their offense it was just stumbling out of the gate. And really, who knows how healthy Kelce really is, even though he's had the 2 weeks to come back from it.
Sure.
Because he suffered it, the Tuesday before the game. I'm definitely taking the Jaguars plus the 3.5. Hell, Jaguars are going to win this ball game.
All right, there. And Chris, again, Chiefs, an early season test on the road against Jacksonville. Jacksonville, a lot of people very excited about this year, and they've got a quarterback that got a playoff win under his belt, a Super Bowl winning coach, and they might want to redeem themselves from last year AFC division round. And what do you think here in this matchup? Chiefs, again, 3.5-point favorites, though, on the road. And give me your thoughts.
Yeah, Chiefs have won, I think, the last 5 matchups between these guys. You got Kelce returning, you got Chris Jones returning, but I think we seen last week that their weakness is at wide receiver. I mean, they just got nothing there. But I think with Kelce back, yeah, they're going to score some points this week. I don't think it's going to be like last week, but I like Jacksonville a lot this year. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they're a team to watch out for in the playoffs, especially in that division. There's no one else in there that's going to give them a hard time. So they're going to win that division pretty easily. But yeah, I like Jacksonville. You know, give me the 3.5. Even if it's a close game, you know, Kansas City might win a close game, but I think Jacksonville wins this outright.
And for you, the Baltimore kid, again, Chiefs-Jaguars was a pretty good playoff game last year. I have to say I enjoyed the game, and Jacksonville did pretty well there. They showed that they could hang in there with Kansas City. And again, maybe do they start the season strong or do the Chiefs bounce back here? But either way, Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites on the road in Jacksonville. 1 o'clock, my friend. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jacksonville hands Kansas City the upset.
Okay.
You know, pretty much like Justin said, Travis Kelce, yeah, he's coming back, but we don't know how, if he's going to be 100%. 2 weeks, I don't think he is. I think that, Mahomes is obviously going to be excited because he has his boy back. I think he's going to, with the lack of wide receiver over there in Kansas City, he's going to be targeting Kelce early and often, which if you're the Jaguars, you have to come to expect that. And I think, he tries to turn it becomes a Mark Andrews situation. Without Kelce, he struggled with him back, not 100%. I don't see him going very far in this game. I'm taking Jacksonville.
All right, fair enough here. And as crazy as it sounds, after trying to hype everybody up with the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think for whatever reason, the battle-tested Kansas City Chiefs find a way here to get a win on the road. Because if you're the Chiefs, as crazy as it sounds, you don't want to go 0-2 in this AFC West. I think it's a competitive AFC West. I think the Chargers we spoke about early in the show, obviously Denver, Russell Wilson played a lot better last week. And Jimmy G and the Raiders, maybe they're not as bad as people may think. And I kind of think the Chiefs here really need to win in this spot. And I kind of think that I take the battle-tested Super Bowl champions. The Jaguars are almost there. They're almost there. But I kind of think in this moment, I kind of like Kansas City here on the road. But let me get to some more comments here before I move on. Chiefs lose to the 2 cat teams, the Lions and the Jaguars. That was a good one there by Frankie.
Yep.
John Gonzalez wants to say Brad's beloved Lions, and then he says, what's next? Jim Dolan's best friend? Well, listen, Jim Dolan's a partial happy man right now because MSG got another 5 years through the city council. That's another show for another time that I do non-Sportswire related. But go ahead, Brute. You have my picks, and last week was a fluke. I'm back on track this week. Rob Maraska in first place.
He's in first
Seriously. Well, I think a lot of people were kind of like Rob Maraska was in first place. I mean, it's like Rob Maraska and Anthony Finkel. Those are the guys that they pick and go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, especially Finkel. I mean, Finkel probably doesn't know where he is half the time he makes these picks, and Rob Maraska is probably getting ready for a card contest when he's making his pick. So between the guy that may not know where he is and the other guy who's probably getting ready for
maybe Rob knows a little more about football than he lets out.
Well, I mean, Rob, I could see studying. Anthony Finkel, I know him. He's not studying these picks. He's just picking literally, like, again, Homer.
The magic napkin.
putting on the napkin.
Yes, he's
meanwhile, I'm looking this stuff up, making my best educated guess, and I go a mediocre 7-9 last week.
It doesn't listen. A bunch of us. I was 7-9. I think Brad was 8-8. I mean, listen, it's early.
And then I get screwed over by this backdoor cover by that late Minnesota touchdown.
Yeah,
although granted, that
we
helped
all
me
did.
nasty because I have T.J. Hawkinson.
And Joe Dell, of course, the legendary Joe Dell, who's holding the fort, I guess, for Rob Maraska, says, wear that shirt with pride, Chris. Well, listen, they did get a win. We'll get to them here. So let me get to some of the lesser games here in the 4 o'clock hour before I get to the primetime game. So I'm going to ask everybody very quickly on this one. Denver and Washington. Washington's at home, 4:25 game. Washington got a win, kind of the way we thought. Broncos lost. Maybe a game we've been accustomed to them losing, so I'm going to go shotgun here on this. Brad, Broncos 3.5-point favorites at home against the Commanders. Of course, a team that the Supran brothers, of course, support dearly because that's what I think Kyle gets his check from. So obviously, we know who he's going for. But who are you going for here? Denver at home, 3.5-point favorites against Washington. And just very quickly, just give me your thought on this.
Yeah, I'll do it quick and say my dad was a little wondering why I even thought about the Commanders. I actually had a thought about it, but with that being said, I did go with the Broncos 3.5, even though, listen, another team that I'm not happy with, they screwed me last week. So I will take the Broncos again, but they could be on the bad list if they blow it again this week.
Could be a redux of last year, even with the new coach. I mean, I don't know, the Broncos, that's kind of them. But very quickly, Broncos, Commanders, Justin. Again, in the 4 o'clock hour, 3.5-point favorites. Denver is at home against the Commanders. What do you think?
Thank God, because there's no rhyme or reason to why I made this pick, but Denver minus 3.5. This might be one of the few games I have zero analysis for.
Well, that's why I'm like, I don't really want to spend much time on this game. And Chris, again, Broncos 3.5-point favorites at home against the Commanders. Commanders won a game that they kind of were expected to, and Broncos lost a game they kind of were expected to lose if you base things on last year. But do the Broncos go 0-2 yet again at home, or maybe they even things up in a matchup where really I think nobody's got any excitement for?
Yeah, I think Denver's got to win this, right? They can't go 0-2 at home.
Not division. Not division.
Yeah. Or else they know they got no shot. So I think they come back with a win. Defense leads the way. Russell Wilson does just enough to win this game.
Okay. The Baltimore Kid, Commanders and Broncos. Broncos 3.5-point favorites here at home. Commanders got a win last week in lethargic fashion against the Cardinals. Broncos lost a game in lethargic fashion against the Raiders. I mean, somebody we think has to win in this 4:25 matchup. And who do you like, my friend?
I don't know why, but I
know where you're going with this.
I like Sam Howell for some reason. He's my sleeper this year. I really think maybe is the word I'm going to use for the Commanders, but I don't know. Not much analysis, but I'm taking the Commanders.
I kind of go along the lines with you. Ron Rivera is a good coach. Rivera, you think about these Commanders teams, I mean, they have had no business winning 7 or 8 games these past 3 years, and they've won 7 or 8 games, and they're probably going to win around the same amount of games they've won these last few years. And
we talked about that last week.
He's a good coach.
They always seem to find a way to win between 6 and 8 games every year.
Yeah, they just, for whatever reason, you look at these teams, and they should win 4 or 5 games. And yet they find ways to win 8-1 last year, 7-9, 7-10. They'll probably be around 8-9 this year, and it's
like I
Ron
said,
Rivera.
except for the year they ended up taking Chase Young like 3rd overall.
Yep.
The Commanders never bottom out.
Yeah, I think I
Always
said
in
this
that
last week.
mediocre middle.
If you look at the last quarter century of the
Not good enough to
Washington
be a
football,
playoff team, but not bad enough to be like a top tier pick.
well, you look, like I said it before, in the last quarter century, whether they've been the Redskins, the Washington football team briefly, or the Commanders, most of the time, if you look it up, they've been anywhere between like 6 wins and 10 wins. There only a few years they deviated. I mean, in the Gibbs years, they won maybe one playoff game, but other than that, they really haven't been any. I think the Dolphins and Washington have been almost the same the last 20 years. If you look at their records, with the few years, Miami 1-15 one
Miami's
year,
had some bottom tier years though.
a couple, but they've mostly been around like 7 wins, 9 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins. Washington did a few more years. I said Gibbs came back and they made a couple of years where they were improved, but other than that, they've been kind of where they are. And I kind of think the Commanders find a way here and get a win. And let me get to a few more comments. Bruce, the Tom Terrific of the 21st century. Okay, yeah, all right. I guess it's that time of evening. The Commanders did end the Eagles streak last year. Yeah, and that's the point. The Commanders, if you think about it, Ron Rivera is a good coach. They play hard. And if you think about even the Sunday night game against the Giants, that was a game they should have won. They're in the playoffs. And we're not talking about the Giants as the way we were to start this year, which brings me to the brute force Bradley Weiss to another game that probably expects to be pitiful to watch. That is those New York football Giants against the Arizona Cardinals. And the New York football Giants are 5.5-point favorites here. On the road, it actually moved up here, which I have no idea why, especially after you watched one of the worst performances. I think, John Gonzalez, you were at this game Sunday, and I really feel sorry for you if you were at that game, A, because of the weather, and B, watching this game. But the brute force Bradley Weiss. Now, I guess I could try to persuade you to pick one of these teams, but to me, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because I really have no idea what to expect from the Giants this year. And the Cardinals, most people anticipate to be the worst team in the NFC this year. But they did hang in against Washington, but it is Washington. But, Brad, what do you think here? Football Giants, 5.5-point favorites in Arizona, 4:05 p.m. game down there. What's your thoughts?
Well, the first thing is the Giants are going to finally score a point this week. Let's just start with that.
Sure?
That'll definitely – no, it'll happen. It'll happen. And I do expect them to score a decent amount of points this week, and that's why I am going to take the Giants with the spread. I really – listen, the Cardinals – you said worst team in the NFC. I expect them to be the worst team in the NFL and
Houston.
arguably one of the –
Maybe Houston.
I think Arizona is going to be the worst. And I think arguably Arizona might be the worst team in NFL history. Okay. I might go as far. They're going to be very They're going to be very, very bad. Okay. Now everybody will say, well, you saw them last week. Like
are we talking like crack bad? Are we talking like a CUNY, like Medgar Evers bad and the CUNY?
Yeah, I think they could be that bad. I mean, I really think they can be. I mean, they are bad, like bad. I mean, again, and listen, everybody's gonna go like, oh well, last week they compete. I don't give a damn. They're not good. If you watch them play, they're not good. So I'm gonna take the Giants. I think this is just like kind of similar to the Bengals. They stunk it up last week. All right, and I think that they're going to come back with a vengeance. They're going to be angry. They know they have to win this game after last week's performance. They know they got to perform better. And I think the Giants will do their jobs and win this game by more than 5.5 points.
Justin, it is a must-win for the Giants, especially if you've been listening to WFAN all week, if you've been listening to SiriusXM, the NFL channel, listening to different podcasts like the Protect Life podcast, which we're hoping to have here on Sportswire soon. And the Giants have been ripped as if there was no tomorrow. So this is almost kind of an early must-win in an environment where they should win. They'll have probably a lot of Giant fans out there in Arizona, a lot of New York retirees out there, and it's going to probably be an environment that they should do well in. But, I mean, do the Giants get a big win here going away? Or maybe the Cardinals make this interesting here. I mean, I have no rhyme or reason why I said that, but tell me what you think in this 4:05 game.
Yeah, I had a tough time with this one.
It's a tough one. It's a tough game, yep.
I do have the Giants winning. I will say that. I do have the Giants winning, but I did struggle with the 5.5 number. Listen, let's address the big elephant in the room here. They got San Francisco on Thursday night. That's not going to be that's the team we haven't got to yet. We haven't talked about their game.
We'll get to them. We'll get to them.
Oh my God, David, you can't sum up more pressure than what the Giants are facing. I do think they're going to win. I am taking them with the 5.5. I'm not comfortable with it because what I saw from Arizona on Sunday against Washington is a Jonathan Gannon-led defense that is actually not half bad.
Yeah, they had a chance to win. I mean, all that Brad said about Arizona, I watched some of the game.
I don't know what their true plans are with Kyler Murray come later in the season.
I think week 5, I heard, right? Week 5.
They could play him or they could hold him out so they could tank for Caleb Williams, which probably would be the best plan. But I think Kyler Murray's going to want to play. If he plays, they're not going to be as bad as everybody thought, but it's hard to trust Josh Dobbs in this situation. I know he didn't play all that poorly against the Commanders, but I have a hard time believing the Giants could put together another poor performance. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to take the 5.5 here. I think the Giants get the job done here out in Glendale.
All right, we'll have to see. Chris, this is almost kind of like a Giants mini home game here because, again, I have to think there's a lot of retirees in New York, New Jersey, in the local area that'll be there. And this is, again, 5.5 point spread the Giants are favored by. This is kind of, to me, like an early must-win. This is almost an easy layup game, and especially after what you did embarrassing yourself, the way you did on national television. Chris Pizzea, the host of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals, do the New York Football Giants redeem themselves and get a going-away win against the Arizona Cardinals, or maybe the Cardinals defense shows up and they get a victory or keep it close?
Yeah, this is an early must-win for them because of
I agree.
Their schedule coming up is tough. I was just looking at it. They got San Fran next week. Then they got Seattle. Then they got Miami, Buffalo, and then they got Washington. And then they got us. So the Jets. So
Washington's not going to be easy. Washington's always a tough game.
They could really be in a bad shape in a few weeks. So I think they have to win this game. You assume they're going to lose next week against San Fran. So then the next big game comes week 4 at home against Seattle. That becomes a huge must-win game. So I think, they got to win here. And just to go back to their game against the Cowboys, someone said this stat, and I looked it up. The Giants are 9-33 against the Cowboys and the Eagles the last 10 years.
Wow. 9-33.
That's the divisional game, two of their biggest division rivals.
So you're saying that's like the Twins against the Yankees up until recently, pretty much.
Yeah. But at least they're not in the same division. I mean,
true.
This is huge. So, but anyway, this is a must-win
right there.
Yeah. Sadly, you're right.
Lions, Packers before last year, same thing.
Green Bay, Chicago, it happens. But you can't be like that against 2 of your divisional opponents, that's for sure.
I even think about the 49ers and Cardinals. That used to be like the same.
Yeah, that used to be ugly too.
It was ugly too.
But,
so
how about think about into the 90s before Kurt Warner magically appeared.
Rams 49ers.
Yeah, the Rams 49ers. The 49ers, I think.
Yeah.
And that's a topic for this week because the 49ers have beaten the Rams, I think, 8 straight times. And back in the 90s, before Warner beat them in week 3 of 99, I think the Niners have won like 16 of 17.
Yeah, well, the Rams were bad through the entire decade up until Warner.
But they had some decent teams in the 90s too, the Rams. They had, remember, Jim Everett was there for a while.
Yeah, but I think at the start of the decade,
they weren't the 49ers, but they were,
Yeah, but when they moved,
that mid 90s, from like 94 to 98, the Rams were horrendous.
That was even
the end of LA to move to St. Louis State. They were a horrendous football team. Remember, and they hired Vermeil in 97. In 97 and 98, they were not good. And then they hired Mike Martz in the offseason to be the new offensive coordinator. And their prized free agent was Trent Green. And then he goes down by blowing out his ACL against San Diego.
Pretty early,
in the preseason. And then Kurt Warner steps in from bagging groceries to hoisting the Super Bowl trophy.
Hey, listen, it just goes to show you never know. But the Baltimore Kid, the New York Football Giants, 5.5-point favorites. I'm still kind of perplexed as to why that might be the case, but they are. Nevertheless, against the Arizona Cardinals in Glendale, it'll be almost like a mini home game, I think, out there. But do the Cardinals maybe get a win here, or do the Giants get back on track after one of the most embarrassing national performances I've seen a team to ever open a season?
You said that the Bengals were going to be the angriest team. There's nobody more pissed off than the Giants right now.
Yes, sir.
Nobody. Like,
that's true.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Again, I said that they weren't going to get the job done. Yeah, not like that.
I mean, that was pitiful. Yeah, that was pitiful.
Like, yeah, no. This game, again, it's another one of those revenge games.
Well, the Baltimore Kid, I guess, what was more pitiful last Sunday night? Craven Rage's performance on Sportswire or the Giants' performance Sunday night?
Craven Rage and the Giants are pretty much one and the same. they're horrible to look at, but you can't look away, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You just want to see what happens next.
Yeah, Craven Rage and the Giants were the train wrecks that obviously just kept going and going and going. But
yeah,
I'm going to pick the New York Giants just because of the fact I think the Giants are going to want to redeem themselves just because of how embarrassing that performance was. And I think Chris is spot on. And I looked at the schedule that the Giants had before I picked, and they have to win this game. To me, this is like must win for the Giants. Yeah. This is a must win game, as must win as it is going to ever be. Let me get to comments here before I very quickly go pick the last of the games that the guys will do. Also, Joe Dell wants to remind me it was for me rather than Bruce. He said his eyes, and he's over 50 years old. I understand. John likes the Giants. And he says it was a train wreck. Danny Dimes was trash. Well, hopefully he picks it up this week. The only reason I got the Giants is because they're playing a rotten team that's actually worse than them. I think we all kind of think that.
Yeah.
Evan Neal has been a huge bust. Darren Waller is hurt again. What can you expect from a guy that has played 14 games in the last 3 seasons, going into almost?
And how about the information that came out this week saying that he's dealing with nerve issue in the hamstring? And it's not so much the muscle, but it's a nerve issue that's just that's just lingering on. That can't bode well for his future with the Giants. I don't know how we expect him to play a full season. I mean, just like John said, 14 in the last 3 years.
And whereas Thibodeau, I've never heard his name called all night against the boys. Another good point.
Yep.
Very good point. All right, I'm going to save the 49ers and the Jets. Not last, but I want to pick this one.
Oh, come on, Tom. You don't want to talk about that game last week, the 49ers Steelers game? Come on.
But in the interest
I'm excited to talk about it.
I am, but in the interest of time, I actually want to very quickly go over this game very briefly. And who do you guys think between the Saints and the Carolina Panthers? 4:15 p.m. No, 7:15 p.m. game, and I think that's the ESPN game because the ABC one, which is
Cleveland Pittsburgh,
is the 8:00 game. So
why is there 2 games on Monday night?
Because
I think they're doing 3 of those this year.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Well, they've actually done it for a while now. Is they'll have either in like week 2 or week 3, they'll have one game on ESPN, another one on ABC, and they just do that as part of their contract with the NFL. So that's just the reason that they have it. So the Bruce Boys, I'm going to basically not spend much time on this game for whatever reason, but what do you think here, Saints and Panthers? Saints here are 3-point favorites on the road. Again, Carolina really wasn't impressive. Neither was New Orleans. New Orleans, we had some modest hype for, but again, they won, but really just because they won, but it really wasn't much. Somebody has to win here. Do the Saints go 2-0, or do the Panthers at home go 1-1 in an early NFC South matchup that actually could, in this crummy division, actually have some major ramifications at the end of the season? So what do you think here very quickly in this matchup?
Oh, for sure. Definitely have ramifications. But the Carolina Panthers, I mean, God, they lost to the dumbest team. And they got out-dumbed, if that makes any sense. I mean,
that was the first game we opened up with.
I mean, ridiculous. I mean, terrible. And, listen, I picked the Panthers, and that was terrible. So with that being said, I'm holding my grudge. I know the Saints were not good either, but the Saints are supposed to be the team that wins the division. They have a good defense, and I think Derek Carr will play okay. I think the Saints win.
Justin, again, Saints won last week, but you really didn't walk away feeling much about them. Carolina, some people had some hype for, didn't really walk away impressed with either. Very quickly, though, Saints are 3-point favorites here by a field goal. Monday night, 7:15 p.m. game. Do they go 2-0, or does Carolina even things up here and go 1-1 in an early NFC South matchup?
Yeah, I do like New Orleans here. I think Carr played pretty well in his Saints debut. It was nice to see Michael Thomas back healthy. Definitely a different receiver than what we were used to in his days prior to all the injuries he suffered. More of a possession receiver now, but the Saints offense should have plenty to get this done. I like the Saints in this one.
Well, I guess I'll make a few people laugh here since it's late at night, and I'll go to Chris very quickly. I think I find this Friends episode in the background more interesting to me, where Danny DeVito is a police officer, and I see Courtney Cox well-dressed, and I have to say Courtney Cox has aged a lot better than Jennifer Aniston has. That's kind of my thing that I think is more interesting than this matchup between the Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Somebody got that here. But, Chris, I mean, somebody has to win here. I don't think we're winning by watching this game, but Saints are 3-point favorites on the road in Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you got to go with the Saints. Saints are just a better team. Carolina, rookie quarterback. He doesn't have much at wide receiver either. So, DJ Moore was traded. So, you got to go New Orleans here. They should win, and they should cover pretty easily.
The Baltimore Kid, I mean, Saints 3-point favorites. Prerogative field goal favorites here against Carolina. Somebody has to win. Early NFC South matchup. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, there's not much to be said. In the interest, again, of picking the team, I just don't see Derek Carr struggling against Panthers. I'm taking the Saints.
I'm picking the New Orleans Saints pretty much for the same reasons mostly everybody picked them. I just don't really see much in Carolina, and I kind of think New Orleans wins. But it'll probably be, as John Gonzalez said, another boring-ass game. Pretty much that's exactly what I think. And Joe Dell says, preach on, Brute. The Saints will go marching in. That reminds me of one of the songs I think I learned. It was one of the songs I learned on bass. When the Saints go marching in. It was a good bass line. Joe Dell will appreciate that. I think the Baltimore Kid, another musician, will appreciate that here. But I'm going to save the Jets and the Steelers last. So before I do that, Brute, I want to go to the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. 49ers touchdown favorites here, but the Rams played well last weekend. I would think maybe you'd be a little bit more closer here considering some history between these two teams of late. But what do you think here? Again, 49ers 7-point favorites on the road against the Rams. Who do you think here wins? Do you want to maybe go with the Rams but pick the 49ers? I mean, give me your thoughts.
So first of all, let me just preface my comments by saying what an amazing job the 49ers did of beating down your Steelers last week, Tom. It was beautiful to watch. Just the Steelers in misery. And I know TBK can agree with me. The Steelers just miserable, horrible. All right, and the 49ers just
to be fair, and listening to one of our podcasts, again, the Protect Life podcast, and these guys, Justin Parsley and Jeremy Crafton, boy, they were almost not wanting to be on Sportswire. They piled on the Steelers in their podcast. They made it a mission to blast the Steelers. So I hear you.
I'll save more for the next pick. But anyway, for this one with the 49ers, I'm going to pick them to win this game. And you said it, Tom. It was because of prior history. I mean, the 49ers have absolutely destroyed the Rams in recent history.
Yep.
And the 49ers have had the matchup favoritism, whether it's in LA or not. In fact, I think the 49ers have played better in LA than in San Francisco against the Rams. So
I think they got the win they needed a few years ago to get into the postseason. The last week in the season, and they won that game, and they came back and won. So yeah, it's a good point.
So yeah, with that being said, I mean, I know I picked the Rams last week to cover the spread. I don't believe in them this week. I think the 49ers are something special to behold, and I think they're going to stomp the Rams this week.
All right, Justin, the 49ers and the Rams, I stand corrected. The spread is actually now 8.5. I'm actually looking at it here. It's a 4:05 game. Again, Rams did look good last week in Seattle, but 49ers are a special team. And what do you think here? 49ers, 8.5 point favorites on the road here against the Rams. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, like I started off tonight by saying the Rams were to me one of the more impressive teams of Week 1, especially given what we thought on their expectations this year. Not many people thought the Rams were going to be a very good team this year, but they had quite the performance in Week number 1. With that being said, we know the history of them against the 49ers. There's just always these long stretches where the 49ers just straight up dominate them. And I do think that continues. The 49ers are definitely going to win this game. And I'm going to take the 49ers in the spread, although this screams to me of only a 10-point game, which obviously is enough to get you the spread to cover with the 49ers. But, I think the Rams will hang in there, but not quite have enough. And I think the 49ers win 31-21.
That's fair. That's fair. And Chris, again, 8.5 to me, and maybe it's a clue for where I'm going to go, seems kind of high based off how the Rams played last week. But again, Brad makes a great point. 49ers recently against the Rams, they've kind of owned them. They've got some big wins in spots in the regular season where they've needed to get wins, and 49ers look to be the class of the NFL. And what do you think here? 4:05 matchup. They're 8.5 point favorites over the Rams.
Yeah, San Fran is just a monster. They're probably the most talented team in the whole league right now. So I take San Fran easily. They've won 4 of the last 5.
Yep.
The only game that the Rams have beaten them was the championship game.
Yep.
A year ago. So, but I'll take San Fran, and I think they'll cover. I think Justin's right. I like about a 10-point victory like that. Not a total blowout, but a good, a decent enough victory.
Fair enough. And the Baltimore kid again, 49ers, 8.5 point favorites over the Rams. And Rams, again, I think looked relatively impressive. And the 49ers, well, listen, they kicked my Steelers' ass. I mean, there's pretty much no other way, no rhyme or reason that you can say it. But I think that will not be the final verdict on the Steelers' season. We'll get to them at the end of the picks. But for you in this particular pick, who do you like?
Yeah, I think I remember last week saying that the Rams without Cooper Kupp weren't going to be able to get it done, but obviously they showed that wasn't the case. But in this one, I just overall feel like San Fran's a better team, and for not much more reason than that, I decided to go with 49ers.
Fair enough here. Before I pick, John Gonzalez had a funny one, which he's referring to the Saints-Panthers game. I think counting all the towels the Brutes stole in Miami is more exciting than this game. Hey, you know what? Oh, you got one. You got one. Oh,
I feel it. All right, it's a new towel. Okay.
Well, because in Barclays, they'll give you a playoff towel when you go to a game. Because I still have all my playoff towels between the Nets and the Islanders. So fair play to you, Brad. Maybe you'll be there on Tuesday night, 7:00 there. Niners, and they'll cover Niners 27-10. Now, this is actually the one game I think the 49ers win, but I'm going to pick the Rams to keep it close because I do think for whatever reason, Rams played pretty well last week and Stafford's back for a full year. Maybe they'll be a little bit better than anticipated. So I think the 49ers win, but I say because it's 8.5, 24-17, because the 8.5's high to me. It's almost like the same thing to me, Bills Raiders. That spread's just a little high for me. Those spreads, anything over 6.5, well, we saw it in the Thursday night game. Those spreads kind of get me a little nervous. So that's my point here. So I guess I'm going to go with the Jets and Cowboys now because I want to go to the Steelers last Monday night. So I'm going to go with you, Brad Weiss, of all people. I want to go with you first because those New York Jets, I mean, certainly what an interesting time to be a New York Jets fan. Sure, they get a win, a lot of emotion, September the 11th, and They find ways. Josh Allen turns the ball over 4 times, but the news here yet again in Jets land, Aaron Rodgers, although he's claiming maybe he can come back at some point this season. Maybe he can pull off a Herculean comeback. Who knows? As my friend Daniel Slavin said, well, maybe he can come back in February. Well, gee, if I looked at my calendar, would that mean the Super Bowl? Is that what somebody is trying to imply? But nevertheless, Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back this season at all. But we'll have to see what the current quarterback does here once again in Zach Wilson. Can he continue maybe his Wilson magic here and go 2-0? But those Dallas Cowboys are interesting here. Right after the news of Rodgers, it went from 3.5 to 9-point favorites. They are 9-point favorites. And how about those Cowboys, Brad Weiss? I know that's where you're going to be going after. What a win. They continue to prove why in September the Cowboys are usually the best of the best here, but it's a 4:25 kickoff here. Cowboys, 9-point favorites against those New York Jets and the brute force Bradley Weiss. Let's say you.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, but I got a lot to say about this game. And listen, first of all, with the Jets, I'm going to be honest with you. I was watching with my dad, and my dad was excited, hyped up about how they won. and ladies and gentlemen, my mood right now and the way I'm speaking was exactly how I felt. I was not happy because I knew that the Jets season, when it came to aspirations and Super Bowl hopes and playoff victories, had came to an end. It's not happening anymore.
Right.
And that's why I couldn't be. I don't care that they won that game. It was nice. It was great. Okay. But at the same time, Chris, me, everybody else, we weren't excited about the Jets just to be a playoff team anymore. We wanted to see something really special happen. And we know that's not happening with Zach Wilson. We know it's not happening. Okay. As Billy McInerney put it, he's one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen. Okay. And listen, Billy McInerney said that, and I told him that.
Didn't you just say the Cardinals quarterback was that?
Weren't they 5 and? Think about last year. They were 5-2 before Breece Hall got hurt and before AVT got hurt. Just throwing that out there. Just letting you guys know.
I get that, but with that being said, Chris Pizzea, and this pains me to say it, pains me. All right, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys are a good team. All right, I don't want to say it, but they're a good team.
They are.
Okay?
You gotta get that.
But with that being said, what makes me struggle with this game is both teams have elite defenses. That's not going to be the problem.
I agree on that.
Okay, the offense is what we got to look at, and I will say this: I actually, with all this being said, I'm going to take the Jets with the spread, and the reason I'm going to take the Jets with the spread, okay, is because I think not only will Zach Wilson make mistakes, but the other guy who I called an average quarterback will also make mistakes, okay? And that's Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott, by the way, in that horrific, disgusting disgrace of a game against the Giants, was actually not even that good. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he didn't do anything. He was Mr. Mediocre. I mean, he had one good drive. He didn't do much to win that game.
Didn't need to.
Yeah, but again, we got to judge the performance, and the performance was not that good. So, with that being said, I think it's going to be a battle of mediocre quarterbacks. Again, Prescott's not mediocre, but he's middle of the line, and obviously Wilson.
That's a fair statement. I think that's a fair.
I think that the Cowboys will win the game. I'm hoping the Jets keep it somewhat close. That's why I'm taking with the spread. I'm hoping. Okay, but in the end, ladies and gentlemen, as a New York Jets fan, I am depressed, because the season that we hoped for is now over.
That's funny you said hope, but I do a news show Wednesday nights, and there was an assemblyman. There was an election in Queens, and they had said, oh, why should they elect the person you were supporting? Well, about hope, and that's kind of you, Brad, and you're hoping that basically the Jets will cover here. But Justin, again, Jets won an emotional game, but obviously we spoke a lot about it earlier in the show about Wilson. Cowboys looked like they usually do in September. They're 9-point favorites here. Maybe Brad has a point. The spread is very high, but the Cowboys, to me, are the team at home. And what do you think here in this matchup?
All right, let's first go through the roller coaster of emotions, right? You're all hyped up for the start of the game. You see Rodgers running out there with the American flag, the anniversary of 9/11.
Yep.
And then all that gets dashed away 4 offensive plays later for the Jets, when he goes down, and then Zach Wilson comes in, and Xavier Gibson, and then you're feeling as low as could be, and then Xavier Gibson returns that back. I couldn't help it. I was excited as can be. But then that wore off, and then the reality starts setting in that he's not coming back, at least this year. But then, as these next couple of days have gone by, I sit here and say, you know what? No more feeling sorry for yourself. You know what? We as Jet fans have always felt sorry for ourselves because one thing doesn't go our way. We had Super Bowl hopes going into 99. Vinny tears his Achilles. Same situation, basically. And guess what? No more feeling sorry for ourselves. You know what? It's one thing or not. It's one thing whether you believe in Zach or not. One thing I choose to do is I'm choosing to rally around Zach Wilson, and I hope he plays a damn good football game on Sunday. And you know what? I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play reasonably well. Now, it's going to be tough. That Dallas defense is legit. It's arguably the best pass rush in all of football. So it's throwing right into the fire. I will say that.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick the Jets to win this game, but I will take Dallas plus the Jets plus the 9. I think that spread's too high. And honestly, at this point, I'd be surprised if the Cowboys scored 9 points the way the Jets play defense. Right? You can see one of those garbage 6-3 games almost more likely than the Cowboys blow the Jets out.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I think the Jets keep it close. I do think they turned Dak over at least twice. So.
Okay, well, fair enough. I got the basically similar tone as Brad. Chris, I mean, give me your thoughts. Obviously, I'm sure I'll listen to it this weekend on sportnarium.com/player in the ticker because, like I said, I'm live twice this weekend, so I'll play it in between a couple of times I'm on. So, I mean, what do you think here? Cowboys 9-point favorites at home against the Jets.
Yeah, Monday night felt like 1999 for me with Vinny.
I remember that 1 o'clock game. I remember it very well.
I was
very
hot
that
day.
Game
too.
You were there? Oh wow. Okay.
Because at that point I still had my season ticket, so I was with all the hype going into that season after '98, making the conference championship, all that stuff, and I was like, we got it this year.
I remember watching the championship game in '98 with my brother and my father, and that was kind of a sad. Because you were up at halftime and then you lost, and then you felt the next year, okay, this team's gonna run right back. But that was it. Never the same.
Absolutely.
Never the same.
So I think, listen, that's a lot of points to be given the Jets with that defense. And I know Dallas is a good team, pretty good team, all that great defense. But did we hear all this about Buffalo too? Buffalo was a really good team, right? And I think Buffalo maybe even being better because of Josh Allen to me is better than Dak Prescott.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though Dallas has the better weapons, but anyway, I'm going to give you guys 2 words. I'm going to give, obviously, Brute's got 1 word, right? Confidence and believe, right?
Oh, wow. You came prepared. I mean, I like it.
Yeah. Like it. You got to have confidence in this team. Number 1, you got to have confidence in the coaching staff. More confidence than we had last year, right? I think offensive coordinator, I said it earlier.
You did.
With Hackett, I think Wilson could progress and take that step just to do enough for us. Like Sanchez was with the Jets in 2009 and 2010, just enough. He doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers. He just has to be just enough to win games for us, right? Run the ball. I think with Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, I think we got enough. And obviously the defense, listen, this defense is going to be top 3, maybe even the best defense in the whole league.
Yep.
It's easily. So I have 100% confidence in this coaching staff, number 1. And I do believe in Zach Wilson that he could take the proper steps here with Nathaniel Hackett. The only thing I got a problem with Wilson is I think he's going to get hurt at some point. Just the way he runs around. He's a little maniac. He gets a little nuts with his running. I can see him getting hurt. That's the only thing I'm afraid of.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's going to be something that. So I think we're going to need a better quarterback behind him just in case he does get hurt. But I believe in Wilson. I believe in this team. Give me the points and maybe even the upset on Sunday and make a lot of people happy.
We'll have to find out. Very, very interesting perspective. The Baltimore kid, I have a feeling you and I are going to be different compared to the rest of the panel. So you go first because the Cowboys are 9-point favorites. I think you and I are going to be on the same page. I have a feeling on this one.
I might surprise you here, Tom.
So I'm the only man on the island coming up here.
I looked forward to today to
because we were speaking on Facebook before a few days ago, and I was expecting you and I were going to be like the same page here.
I expected to fully come in here and talk my shit, and like I said, I had said right off the bat that your season depended on whether or not Rodgers could stay healthy. And then he went down in 4 plays, and I was like, oh, holy crap. I was like, oh my gosh, dude. But you know what? I said it and I meant it. I am excited to see what you guys do. And not only with Rodgers going down, did you guys rally around Zach Wilson, but you won the game. Yep. And you won it in exciting fashion. So momentum being what it is, I got y'all pulling out an upset. Now,
wow.
I still don't think Zach Wilson is your guy, and he's never gonna be. But I think momentum will carry you, and you guys could deliver a knockout punch here to Dallas. And I would love to see it.
Wow.
And if you want to call it a hot take, call it a hot take.
Well, I guess Tuesday, when we're actually on the air together, I may have to ask you that if that happens. I have to say, I'll ask you about the podcast and other things, but
sure.
I guess I'll ask you that then Tuesday night. Stay tuned, cheap plug. But I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys here. I think the Cowboys win this game going away. I think they win this convincingly. I think Dallas, to me, I know Brad's going to say, they always play well in September, but I think McCarthy calling the plays this year. Keep in mind, this is the first time he's calling the plays as a coordinator in a long time here. I think Dallas wins this one going away. I think the Jets had a lot of momentum. They had a lot of heart, a lot of emotions, 9-11. The defense carried them. It's not going to have the same luck here in Dallas. 4:05 game. Dallas is going to be fired up. I think this Dallas team is going to be different. I'm going to say Dallas wins this 21-3, something like that. Dallas wins this comfortably. I think they just win comfortably, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. So we saved the last game Monday night because, it's the Steelers. And that's because they're on the schedule last Monday night. I actually wanted to go with that. But speaking of games that might be very well tough to pick, but it almost in a way, the Brute Force is kind of, I think, an early season must-win for the Steelers because you don't want to go 0-2, especially 0-2 at home here. And it's Monday night to close the slate here in Week 2. They are 2.5-point favorites, though, against the Browns, but the Browns looked good last week. Got to say it. The Browns looked very good here last week. And, we'll go to Miami, New England. Also, I have that 8:20. We'll go to that. But I want to go to the Steelers now that I'm here. But for you, the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, I mean, the Steelers are 2.5-point favorites. It's almost a must-win. So what do you think here? Do the Browns go 2-0 and put a dent in the Steelers' season? Or maybe Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett finds a way here to even things up here in the AFC North?
Tom Bryce, listen, I was very reasonable and fair this year when it came to the Steelers. Okay, I said that they were going to be a 500 team. They would get to 500. This ain't going to be good for them to start the season, okay, because they're going to be 0-2. All right, and they're going to lose this week to the Cleveland Browns, who, by the way, the Cleveland Browns will not be in last place in this division. It will be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well,
they make that very clear, all right, because I think the Cleveland Browns have a pretty damn good defense. They got a pretty damn good front on their defense, okay? I was impressed with their defense, even though, again, Cincinnati was horrible, but give some credit to the Browns. They played well. Their defense played very well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that with Pittsburgh, I mean, you saw them against a good defense last week, and oh my God, they couldn't do anything. Here comes another one coming into Pittsburgh. And I know everybody's going to be like, well, they'll never lose 2 games in Pittsburgh. They're the Steelers. Listen, I'm not listening to that nonsense, okay? The Cleveland Browns, okay, are a good team. I think that they're going to do enough to win this game. I don't believe in Pittsburgh's offense to score enough points in this game against the Cleveland defense, which, again, I'm impressed with right now. So I'm going to take the Browns. I'm going to take them with the spread, too. And the Steelers, Tom Bryce's Steelers, will be 0-2 to start the season.
We shall see. Justin Gianelli, Steelers, Monday night are 2.5-point favorites. Browns have a lot of momentum. What do you think?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by what the Browns did to the Bengals on Sunday, and Pittsburgh. I thought Kenny Pickett did some good things later in the game, but that game got so out of hand early on. It's hard to take any stock from that San Francisco Pittsburgh game. I mean, San Francisco just got out to such a fast start. I think that game was more San Francisco being that good as opposed to Pittsburgh being that bad. But with that being said, I think Cleveland's the slightly better team. This is going to be your typical 13-10 dogfight kind of game. As always in the AFC North, it seems like the AFC North games are always the most brutal of the bunch.
Yeah.
Buffalo can attest to it. And I think this is going to be another one of those bloodbaths. I'm going to take the Browns here. Would it surprise me to see the Steelers win? No, but I'm going to take the Browns -2.5 here. I think Deshaun Watson finds a way to get it done.
All right, Chris, obviously these games here in the AFC North in primetime are always smash mouth, low scoring, defensive games that come down to time of possession, turnovers, field goal kickers, and in this case, it's 2.5 points that separate the Browns and the Steelers, with the Steelers being the 2.5-point favorites at home. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a typical AFC North matchup. I'm going to take Cleveland. I just think Cleveland's going to be a really good team this year. I had them last week beating Cincinnati. I think they'll beat Pittsburgh. It'll probably be a tight game, low scoring, like they normally are. But and Cleveland does have a really good defense as well. And maybe this is the year that Cleveland puts it all together. Deshaun Watson with a quiet offseason finally could, and there's just no excuse for this team not to be good this year. So I like Cleveland to win this one.
The Baltimore Kid, I know you have to pick somebody here. Browns and Steelers. Again, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Somebody, I guess, theoretically has to win. It's a must-win, early must-season win. I do agree with Brad. It's an early must-season win for the Steelers. Browns, again, impressive last week. 2.5-point favorite. Pittsburgh is at home Monday night to close out week 2 against Cleveland. What do you think?
I mean, I'll never pick Pittsburgh if I can help it. No,
you got Cleveland. No, it's not like Cleveland's any better. Though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. As you know, every point has already been made. It's the AFC North, and with Cleveland coming off against, albeit fair enough to say, an impressive win against a division rival. I gotta say, as I've said before. Kenny Pickett's not your guy, and he's not going to fare well against that Cleveland defense.
Well, you know what? What you saw last week, I mean, you certainly have a point. But who do you think I'm going with, Brad?
Do we even have to ask you? I mean, you're gonna pick your Steelers.
His beloved Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm going to pick the Steelers, but I actually have a reason because you actually gave the reason. The Steelers, I just don't see them going back-to-back losses. And to start the season at home, that's devastating. I kind of think Tomlin finds a way. It's going to be an ugly football game. It's going to be an ugly, low scoring, again, time of possession, turnovers, who keeps the ball. It's going to be exactly the matchup that we see in these AFC North primetime games. It'll probably be a kickoff, 55 degrees, maybe a little bit of rain in the forecast. That means it's going to come down to how many times you keep the ball. And I think that the Steelers have the last possession. They'll probably get the last possession. They'll find a way to get a win. I'm going to go to Dolphins, Patriots, just in the interest of time very quickly, but I do want to read off a few comments here. I have a bunch of them that I missed. Reminded me of Vinny blowing his Achilles against the Pats. Same scenario in opening day with Super Bowl expectation. Yes, I agree with you. I think Chris had the same thing. Chris, the confidence I have is that Wilson will be stomped out like those Asian lantern flies. Well, the lantern bugs, I've seen them all through my yard, and I've seen them all through everywhere. I'm back in Brooklyn again throughout the week, and I see them all over in Bensonhurst and Gravesend. They're just everywhere this summer, so that is a fair point. The Jets have to keep it on the ground. They do have a big-time running tandem in Hall and Cook, but defenses will key on them. That's the issue. Fair point. John likes the Browns. Brute, you've never, yeah, I agree with John. You've never been reasonable with the Steel Curd. Even though John's going with the Browns, that's a fair perspective, though. Browns with the points.
Yeah.
And I think I missed one here. After 50 years as a Jet fan, I wish they still had the spiral ramps next to the stadium. Well, I
Come
mean,
on.
no, he's joking, but
Yikes.
he's joking.
Not that bad.
Can't be that hard.
We won
Shit.
the game. We won.
I think it's because of the Rodgers. It's
The Rodgers,
I get it, but we
it's a big
won.
blow. It's a big blow. Well, it's a bummer.
All I gotta say quickly, Tom, is that there was a clip that you posted. I think it was either last week or the week before, where you questioned me about not having bought the green Aaron Rodgers jersey.
That was the prior week show.
Yes, but you said you buy James D. Simone's shoes, but you don't buy Rodgers. I am so glad I bought James the shoes and not a Rodgers jersey.
I disagree with that because the rarity, especially if he doesn't come back of a Rodgers jersey, that it'll be like 40 years from now, it'll actually come back and be in vogue in value. Technically,
I guess.
It's like having a Brett Favre jersey. I still kept the Brett Favre jersey.
I have mine somewhere.
He's exactly just made the point. And I believe it. I still have a Vinny Testaverde jersey somewhere. I never wear it, but
that one I would get. But the Favre, I wouldn't. I don't. He used us to get to Minnesota, so that's why
what it is. And I will go very quickly. Shotgun on Dolphins Patriots. When they had Favre announced, I remember when my brothers and I watched it. It was such a big deal, even in New York, that they actually got Bloomberg with the city council and they got Favre and everybody had jerseys on. And it was like for that one moment, like, wow, you know what? Maybe we do have to run out and get a jersey. So it was kind of that moment in 2008. So I'll say that much. So yeah, I'm with Justin on this one here, but in the interest of time, I want to go shotgun. Just tell me Dolphins, Patriots, no more than like 10 seconds. Who do you got? Brute force. Miami is 3-point favorites, field goal on the road in New England, 8:20 Sunday night. Who do you like?
Dolphins. I think the Dolphins actually have a really good chance to win this division now, and I think that they showed you why last week. They're a good team.
Justin, Dolphins on the road, 3-point favorites in Foxborough, Sunday night, 8:20. Who do you got? Very quick.
Listen, that was a nice effort by New England to hang in the game with Philadelphia, but they're not going to be able to keep up with the electricity that is the Dolphins. I mean, like I mentioned before, Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. I mean, they're an unstoppable force right now. And like Brad said, they might as well be the favorites for the AFC East right now. I'll take the Dolphins minus the 3.
I tell you what, Miami did start the year last year 7-1, in the year prior ended, I think, winning their last 7 games. So you just never know. But Chris, again, very quickly, Dolphins are 3-point favorites on the road in Foxborough. Foxborough kind of for the Patriots in the same spot Tomlin and the Steelers are. What do you think here? Sunday night, 8:20, Dolphins and Patriots.
Miami has been giving New England problems the last few years. They've won 4 of the last 5. So yeah, and New England, enough's been said about that team. They have a really good defense, but there's nothing there on offense. No weapons, no quarterback. They're going to have a hard time scoring points. So I'm going to say New England. Miami wins and covers.
The Baltimore kid, Miami.
Chris, even the Dolphins roughed up Brady. That was the one team he always had like a bugaboo with.
Yeah, you going into Miami, yes, that's a fair point. The Baltimore kid, Dolphins, 3-point favorites on the road Sunday night in Foxborough. What do you think?
Dolphins all the way. Tua has the weapons. New England, just without the defense, is shambles.
Miami's got weapons. They've got a flashy young coach. If Tua is healthy, I definitely agree with you, Brad. Miami's a team that made the playoffs last year. They got over the hurdle there. When Tua's been healthy these past few years, Miami wins. And I think Miami wins here comfortably. I think that New England is in an uncomfortable position for them. And I think it's going to be a long year for the Patriots. I think the Steelers are a little different, Brad, than the Patriots. I don't see much hope for the Patriots. I still believe in the Steelers. And I think Miami wins here by 2 touchdowns going away, even though the Patriots played very well against Philadelphia.
By the way, I've been waiting to say this.
Yep.
I've been waiting to say this for years. Now, the only weapon the Patriots have is Pat the Patriots musket.
That's it. That's it. John wants to say, will Big Ben come to East Rutherford? We spoke about that at the beginning. Guys didn't think that, but at this point, who knows really? I mean, I guess we'll find out sooner. rather than later. Fish and the points, and John agrees Miami will win the East. I think Miami's got a listen. You got a shot for 3 teams to make the playoffs. If the Jets could find a way and get another quarterback, they could certainly make the postseason. But it's obviously not what Jet fans hope for. But I think Miami and Buffalo will find ways. Miami is the team to look out for in the AFC this year. You know what's funny? That if you look at the Florida teams in the AFC, Miami and Jacksonville, those are the 2 teams that you could certainly keep an eye on and definitely could have maybe under the radar aspirations. But we've spoke about a lot here on Sportswire Radio, and we've run through the gauntlet. And tell us what you think next week when we're here. We're going to talk about the games and we'll recap everything and more. But it is getting near that time of the night. So the Baltimore Kid, I go to you first. I'm going to see you Tuesday. So we'll see if you were right on some of these things. And we'll talk about that amongst some other things. So I give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? And I'm looking forward to your show Monday, which will play here on the link below at sportnarium.com/player. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's great show, guys. Thanks again for having me. Monday, new show comes out, as Tom said before. Hit the milestone, the first milestone, got 104 listeners within a month, so very excited about that. I'm totally looking forward to having a one-on-one with you, Tom. I'm super excited about that. I don't know what the hell is going on with my Orioles. We've lost 3,
I saw
4
it tonight.
straight now?
Yeah, it's getting tight.
So
it's getting tight in the AL East.
It's a little nerve-wracking, but I still stand by what I said. I still think it's going to be Orioles Braves in the World Series. Anyway, again, looking forward to Tuesday. That's about it.
Absolutely, and the Braves again, certainly a lot that they have with Acuna and Olsen, and they're certainly having a special season. But I still think the Orioles will find a way to nudge out the Rays in the AL East. But time will tell, and we'll talk about it. Chris, I give you the floor. I give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you'd like to plug, share, or say? And the floor is yours, and be my guest.
Thank you, Tom. Guys, great show as always. Just keep believing, man, in the Jets. Hopefully they're going to make a lot of people not look smart with doubting them this year. I think I really do. I think they'll still do it with the defense and the running game. And like I said, Zach will do just enough to win games and get us into the playoffs. And then who knows? But anyway, Patrick and I will be breaking down Yankees, Red Sox, and all things baseball and talking rivals next week on Monday. And Sharman and I be breaking down the Jets, hopefully a victory and the rest of the NFL on Liftoff Jets. So hit me up, CP7NY on Twitter, and Liftoff Jets, and Talking Rivals as well on Twitter.
And also TBK, you can follow him on Instagram at xxt.b.k.xx92. So check him out also. And I'll be very curious to hear what the Talking Rivals guys will say about this NL wildcard race here, which is coming down literally to, I guess it's going to be a coin toss. You got 4 teams there pretty much tied. And I think that'll be so fascinating between the Marlins, the Reds, the Giants, and the D-backs. All those teams there could be literally going down to the last game. So we'll have to see what happens there. Then in the American League wild card, you've got Texas, Seattle, Houston, and Toronto. Those 4 teams are pretty much bunched up there, and one of those teams will be on the outside. But Justin, I give you the floor. I give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? Floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Yep. I just want to back what Chris says about the Jets. You know what? Let's prove some people wrong. You know what? This is a really good roster. This still has the potential to be a really good season. But the supporting cast needs to support Zach, and Zach needs to make the plays. I think that's first and foremost. You can follow me at JGNLE12 on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it, at JGNLE91. And let's not flop this week, because I went 0-3 on the locks. From week 1, none of them hit. Unfortunately, Joshua Kelly stole a potential Austin Eckler second touchdown, which would have hit at least one thing. And Trevor Lawrence over 255 passing yards. I think he ended up with 251. So that was a nail biter on that one. This week, what we got? We're locking in with the Packers, the 1.5 That number is just too juicy on the road. Like we talked before, I just don't trust the Falcons, and I think Jordan Love's going to play exceptional. Number 2, I like Christian McCaffrey to go over 69.5 rushing yards. I think he's going to have a good day on the ground against the Rams. And number 3, this goes back to the Detroit Lions, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, 74.5 receiving yards. I think that's a low number for him. I think he's going to eclipse 80 and potentially even go towards 100 yards. So give me the over on receiving yards for Amon-Ra St. Brown at 74.5.
All right, very interesting stuff. We'll definitely see how it all unfolds next week. And while we didn't save the best for last, we definitely saved the biggest for last here in the brute force. Brad Weiss obviously saw your photo book there with the season that was and level up for the summer. And we go into the fall. We saw all those good shots you posted out there. You obviously were there in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center and playoff opener against the Mystics. And I turn it over to you, Brad. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? Floor is yours.
Yeah, guys, thank you for another great week of the show. Excited for what's to come for sure. You can follow me on social media at bweiss20 and at Coach Brad Weiss on Instagram, searching at Brad Weiss20 on Twitter /X, and then also on Facebook, searching Bradley Weiss. As Tom said, New York's best team, the best team around, the New York Liberty got the job done tonight, winning their first game. It was a really exciting, great atmosphere. Game 2 was on Tuesday. They have to win 2 out of 3, so they got game 1. If they win this series, they start Sunday the 24th with their next series. So we're hoping to get there. We got to win 3 series to win the championship, and hopefully we get 1 at a time and 1 game at a time. So I'm excited about the Liberty for sure. Level Up, we're doing great things. We're very busy right now with Level Up. Definitely getting ourselves ready for the fall-winter season. But again, it was a great summer season, as you mentioned, Tom. Follow us at levelup_LI. To see all the great things that we're doing with Level Up. Long Island Nets is going to start brewing, so at Long Island Nets as well, follow them as well. So there's a lot of good things to go forward with. I will definitely say, I'm not going to say I'm as confident as Chris and Justin and the Jets, but I'm really going to try to hop on their train and hopefully be able to be more confident in the weeks to come. So, and if they beat the Cowboys, I'll be really happy. We all know that. So thank you guys for a great week, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Absolutely. We'll see all of that. And I want to say hello and goodbye to John Gonzalez, who says, good job, guys. I'll see you on the Sports Authorities. And I also want to wish everybody out there, our Jewish brothers and sisters, a Lashana Tova. It is Rosh Hashanah, a new year for those in the Jewish community. So I wish you a great new year, a great fast for Yom Kippur in a few weeks. But until then, enjoy Rosh Hashanah, and we'll be back here tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Trinity Parker of XCW Shelbyville, and we'll be back here Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time with Jason Storm, the wild card Jason Storm, the ROBW Backyard Wrestling World Champion. For now, he'll have his title shot tomorrow. His match will be with JX, so we'll see if he retains the title. We'll talk about that, obviously, Sunday night, and we'll be with the Baltimore Kid himself Tuesday night about 9:30, so tune in for that and more. And Monday, I'll be back here with the rock idol of the UK, Jenny Hayes, at 8:15 p.m. British Standard Time. But until then, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank, obviously, the guys here on the show. The brute force Bradley Weiss, 27th all-time in SJLI men's basketball history and rebounds. You're the top of the list all-time in block shots. Also a coach with our Level Up basketball organization. Long Island Nets head coach for the Plainview boys JV basketball team. Also Justin Gianelli of the baseball banter. Chris Bezea of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals, and the host of the Be More Talkative podcast, The Baltimore Kid. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the man behind Sportswire Radio, your voice of all wrestling, and also the host of the Sports Report. And again, I'll be back here tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Trinity Parker of XCW Shelbyville. So until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.